right. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall 419, the man with the million. Back again on a Friday. Feels so good. And as always, we are here with Jez Corden, my host for the Xbox 2 podcast. And I got a little beef with him today. So we're gonna have to get into we got some beef. Me and you, we're gonna have to air this out right now, live on the Xbox 2, Jez. You know what I mean?
Okay. What is this beef?
This beef is, why are you having all the scoops for Checkpoint and Miles Dampier? Am I not good enough anymore? What's up with that, huh?
Oh man.
Am I not good enough for you anymore?
Hey, bro. Of course, you are always my number one guy, man. But unfortunately, sometimes I have to drop exclusives for Windows Central because they're the ones paying my bills. Okay.
I don't feel like a number one guy anymore. I feel like you've turned your back on me and you're all up in that Miles character, you know? So, I mean, even though you had told me about it already, I already knew. But I'm like, see, so the thing is, like, Jez is not going to be leaking exclusively through Checkpoint. So, like, Xbox 2 podcast is now no longer going to be in the news, at least, which is great because I no longer am I going to have to read Jez Corden's podcast, because now that can mean two podcasts. It could mean this one and it could mean Windows Central's Checkpoint, because nobody talks about, nobody refers to that as Miles Dampier's podcast, right? So,
oh man. Well, first of all, Checkpoint's not a podcast.
True. It is not.
Second of all, yeah, like I said, I gotta keep my job, man. Like I need that job. I got bills to pay, bro. And Manscaped doesn't pay the bills just yet. But if it did, I would totally focus on this instead.
But anyways,
I wonder if we ever could get big enough for Manscaped to pay the bills. That'd be really funny.
If like Manscaped opened up like a video game, like part of their website or something where you could write leaks there.
Man,
you'd have to like work in like innuendos about trimming your bush alongside leaks of like Xbox first party in the paragraph. I'd pay to see that. I don't know about everybody else.
You just made me think of a Manscaped video game where you have to like accurately trim. Oh man, never mind. Let's not go there.
Let's not go there, indeed. But it is one of the look. It's April 1st, which means it's April Fool's Day. So even when I put out the tweet that we were doing the podcast today, I was like, nobody's going to believe me because we went on a stretch of doing the show on Saturday. So I had to put out in the tweet, this is not an April Fool's joke. I hate April Fools so much. I really do. Like, get on. You can't trust anything that anybody says on this day. Some of these companies just reveal stupid stuff, and I really, really don't like April Fools. I don't know how you feel about it, but I particularly am not a fan.
I don't know if I'm just getting old now, but it's just overdone. Kind of feels cringe now. I don't know if the internet's ruined it. When it was like you were a kid and people played pranks at school, it was more fun. But when all these corporate pranks are going down, and it's just like marketing and it's just, I don't know. I'm just kind of over it. But maybe I'm just old and grumpy. I don't know. I mean, maybe you should put a poll up and see what the peeps think of April Fools, if people still like that shit. I don't know. I'm done. I'm over it though, man. I'm just over it. Over Fools.
Yes, we're completely. Look, Miles is finally here. He'd have to scroll back. You could scroll back a little bit, Miles. We were talking about you and Jez's second podcast, Checkpoint, and how Jez has basically turned his back on his longtime partner and is now all snuggled up. It's big, So I have to ask: is Miles the big spoon or the little spoon in this relationship, Jez?
Oh, I don't know. Depends who's taller, really. Probably me.
You're taller than Miles?
I don't know. Maybe Miles can tell us how tall he is. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know.
Anyways, I hope everybody's having a great day, even though it is April Fool's. We do have, some stuff here to talk about. We will be talking about the Xbox Game Pass family plan that Jez leaked, and we'll be discussing that. PlayStation Plus got a revamp and it's going head to head now with Xbox Game Pass. Now it's PlayStation. It's called the Xbox Game Pass Killer. So should Microsoft be scared? There's some comments from Jim Ryan that may or may not seem like shots to Xbox about quality of games, and is that actually true? Like, is it true that if Sony were to put their games day one into a subscription service, that they could no longer reach the quality of the games that they already put out? Or is that just kind of PR for the masses to make it seem like this is the reason we're not doing it? So there's a lot here to discuss. Undead Labs, in an article about Kotaku, E3 canceled, more stuff about Activision and Xbox. I remember when Xbox acquired Bethesda, there was no talk about monopolies. There was no senators being like, we need to take a deeper look at this, right? It basically, Xbox announced it, and then 6 months later it closed, right? But it seems like every single week there's something about this Activision Xbox deal. Like, the FTC's looking into it deeply, and you got these groups writing these, because Hoglaw does a really good video series on everything. These groups writing, lobbying the FTC to block it on all these different various reasons. You got supposedly maybe the insider trading, because I guess Bobby Kotick met with 3 people, and right before they bought some stock a couple days beforehand and stuff, so they're being investigated, and all the senators are all deeply concerned. It just seems like, I don't know, maybe Xbox almost bit off more than they could chew in this scenario, because the Bethesda one just nobody cared about. This one, it seems like there's just all eyes on them. So
yeah, it's not going to be smooth sailing, I think.
Yeah. Anyways, if you guys to do us a big favor, make sure you hit that like button. Share this out on social media just in case YouTube doesn't send out notifications, which they sometimes do, because a lot of people probably figure it's Rand Jez. They say they're going to do the show on Friday, but it's going to be on Saturday. We made sure this week would be on Friday. Mine and Jez's schedule aligned perfectly. Although, you did mention to me earlier, someone actually pulled a physical April Fool's joke on you today.
Yeah, oh man, I couldn't believe it. I actually don't know if that's ever happened to me before, but yeah. So my girlfriend got a job. She got a new job.
Congrats.
And yeah, thanks. And my girlfriend's family was like, "Oh yeah, we want to celebrate the new job, and we want to toast the new job. So come downstairs, and we're gonna have a glass of wine." And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's cool." So I come downstairs to get a glass of wine, and take a sip, and they just filled my glass with vinegar. So yeah, I got thoroughly trolled. And let me tell you, drinking vinegar is not very pleasant, especially when you're expecting wine.
What was your reaction when it hit your tongue and you realized that it wasn't wine and it was vinegar? Did you spit it out?
My first reaction was like, "Oh man, German wine tastes weird." My first reaction. I still thought it was wine. I just thought it was weird organic wine or something. I don't know. But I was like, yeah, that's got an interesting profile. And they're laughing at me, and I'm like, oh great, I've been tricked. I've been trolled.
Yeah. My condolences. Yeah. That's I couldn't imagine thinking you're gonna drink something like that and it ends up being vinegar of all things. Ugh. That's almost as bad as you think. It's like, here's a sandwich, it's got some whipped cream on it, but it's really mayonnaise,
Man, maybe I deserve it for all the bad food pictures I've been sharing.
I think you do. What was with that pickle popsicle thing that you posted?
The popsicle.
What is that?
Popsicle. I don't know. I just saw it and I thought, wow, that's interesting. I slapped that on Twitter. I was joking around because I hit 50,000 followers, and I was like, most people follow me for Xbox news, but they end up getting just weird food pictures all the time.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, and that's not an April Fool's joke. That's just me. That's just who I am.
So make sure you guys hit that like button. Got a couple super chats I want to get to. Jonas the Dad says paywall back and pat, game demos, and paywall cloud save. That's how you win a generation. Hashtag April Fools. I still can't believe cloud saves is a paywall thing.
That is weird.
It's ridiculous is what it is. That's one of the reasons why when I got rid of my PS4 Pro and like God of War and all these other games like Ghost of Tsushima, especially Ghost of Tsushima because it came out with DLC. And I had finished Ghost of Tsushima. I'd done everything in the game, but because I didn't have PlayStation Plus, because why would I need PlayStation Plus? I don't play multiplayer on the system, and I don't need the free games because I play everything on Xbox. But it was like, oh, by the way, I wanted to play the DLC, but at the same time, it was like I didn't have my save because I didn't really know about that. Well, actually, no, that's not fair to say. I did know about it. Like I know you need to pay, PS Plus, and I didn't take
something.
Well, I didn't take my saves off the console, so when I sold it, it was just one of those things that slipped my mind. Like I sold it, and I didn't bother taking the saves, so it was kind of like, well, I don't have any of the saves for the PS4 games that actually might get content. So it's like, yeah, God of War's been updated, but like I'd have to start from the beginning. Or Ghost of Tsushima, like you can't just like start that DLC from the beginning, so it's kind of just like, this sucks. But hey, so
it's weird when you're used to it. Like I played God of War initially on PlayStation Now, and then when I came to play on because I did buy a PlayStation 4 eventually, I bought a PS4 Pro because I wanted to play The Last of Us really badly for some reason. I don't know. I was on a big zombie kick at the time. And I thought, well, I'll continue God of War on this, but I couldn't because no cloud saves. And it's just become something that's secondary nature to me now. But kind of sucks if you want to make it PlayStation a secondary console that you don't get that out of the box. But I think it's the same on Nintendo too. And I think really it's ultimately like partially a business thing because it's not like Sony is overflowing with mountains of cloud data like Microsoft is. So for Microsoft, like having cloud saves, ain't no thing because they've been doing it for years. They've got millions and millions of servers. It's no big deal to them. But I guess like for Sony, it's a little bit more like they got to think about it more economically. Maybe I don't know. Or maybe they just like money. Maybe that's the real reason, eh?
Yeah. I mean, also I think it's because
we all got to get that bread.
Nintendo, I think, has the same thing. So it's just one of those where it's like kind of almost industry standard, except for the fact that Xbox doesn't do it. So
yeah,
maybe they feel like nobody complains or nobody complained about it enough when it happened. So Poochie, who's been a member for 4 months, says 4 months. Let's go, Jez. Get me a job at Windows Central now. So he wants a job.
Man, I wish they'd let me hire more people, but alas, they do not.
Austin H says, Jez, any inside info on what Microsoft did to start cranking out the Series X supply number? They're actually available now. So me and you were talking about this beforehand, but
yeah, that's weird. I have no inside info on this. I don't know if you've heard anything, Rand, but I haven't heard. I had no indication this was even going to happen. It just sort of happened today out of the blue, and it seems weird because honestly, you'd think they'd try and align this with a big release or something, like maybe save your stocks for when Starfield drops or something. Well, maybe not that far out, but you think you'd save it for something like that or something. But maybe it just doesn't matter because they're still selling out completely anyway. But that is kind of interesting that they suddenly seem to have supplies of it because it's been in stock all day on Amazon, right? On Amazon Prime or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so. The last couple weeks, it's the Series S has been available quite a lot, and then Series X has kind of come in and out of stock here and there. Eventually gets sold out or whatever. But they had a big drop of the Series X yesterday, and I think as of right now, it's still available to Amazon Prime users, even like 24 hours later. And people have posted like the charts, and it's like number one in the video game like portion or whatever, but like people were comparing the charts of like all of March or whatever, and it seems like the Series X got up to like number 11, and like right above it was like the OLED version of the Switch. So like just that one drop of the Series X, at least according to some of the people I follow that like follow this stuff, just this one drop basically Amazon sold as many Series X's as the whole month of like, Nintendo Switch OLED units. So they
That's
must have,
wild.
yeah, they must have just had a ton for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just, because Series S was available quite often during the holidays, and the Series X would come in and out of stock, and it would like, okay, sell out and then come back in. But it seems like, I don't know. We were talking, about like stock issues and how long it would last. Is this a sign that things are getting better, or is because you look at it right now, like, it seems that last month Xbox outsold PlayStation, and maybe there's the possibility that it outsells it this month again. Was Microsoft just better at somehow obtaining stock from all these different, manufacturers than PlayStation was? Like, what do you think's up with that?
It's really hard to say. Microsoft has a close relationship with chip manufacturers because of their PC business, right? So Microsoft is working like really closely with AMD lately. They put out like AMD Surfaces, which is a big deal for AMD because AMD is like they're in hot competition with Intel for like basic CPUs and stuff like that. And they're trying to compete with Nvidia on the GPU side. And like Intel literally this week announced its own GPUs as well, which is really interesting as well. So there's more competition in that space than ever on the PC side. And Surface is doing pretty well. It's growing steadily quarter over quarter and stuff. And Microsoft partnered with AMD to make AMD Surfaces for the first time a couple of years ago, I want to say. So maybe like they were just able to leverage some of that over AMD a bit more to push their silicon more towards Xbox for supplies. That's pure speculation though, because I have like literally no idea, no inside knowledge about all this stuff. But it does seem like Sony's bottlenecked heavily by their chip supplies right now. I do wonder like what it would look like, what the sales would look like if there was no chip shortage, if there was no semiconductor issues. And obviously the war in Ukraine is going to exacerbate this even further because a lot of the neon that is industrial grade neon comes from two companies in Ukraine, supposedly, which is just going to make things even worse down the line. So I don't know. I mean, we can only speculate at this point. I might try and reach out to Microsoft to get an official word on it because it is quite interesting, I think. But I have no inside knowledge beyond that.
Well, I think it's
really interesting.
I think it's great because, I've always heard in the comments of my videos when I would talk when I used to make videos, because I haven't made anything in like 2 months, but my vacation's over, my sabbatical
You'll
from
get back.
social. Well, no, so I told you like I took a sabbatical, right? I didn't look at YouTube. I haven't looked at anything. We do the podcast, but I don't really look at anything else. And I just took a sabbatical from social media in general. Like, I don't tweet on Twitter. I barely even look at stuff on Twitter. I was just kind of, I don't know, needed a break. I was doing some other stuff. So, because Jez kept on being like, hey, you need to do this. You need to make videos and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I will. I just wanted to take a break. Like, social media can just, I don't know, every time I do get on social media like Twitter, I just see people fighting all the time about stupid shit, right? And I was just like, I'm just gonna wait until April. I'm just gonna take a vacation. I'm just gonna clear my head, finish some of these things that I've been doing, in my personal life, and then come back. And it's not like I've missed anything significant, so, but, when I go back and I look at like Activision Blizzard when it was announced or stuff from last year, a lot of people just weren't really interested in hearing news about Xbox because they couldn't get a next-gen console, right? Maybe you could get a Series S, but not everybody wants a Series S. Some people like just want the big daddy, right? Some people just want like the premium one. They don't want to get the Series S. So for them, it's like
You'd be surprised, man. There's like we track because obviously Windows Central, we're a search oriented site, right? We focus on search traffic a lot, and there's a huge amount of search traffic around the Series S because that's the one that most people seem to have. It's really interesting how it's sort of building up its own little subculture.
No, you're right. I'm just saying, like, I know me, right? If I didn't get a Series X from Microsoft, even though I had one pre-ordered, if I couldn't get a Series X, but I could get a Series S, I probably wouldn't have gotten the Series S. I probably would have waited to get a Series X because I only need one system. Like, because once I would get a Series X, what do I need the Series S for? You know, I don't have any kids, you know, like a lot of other people do where they share, you know, it's like, hey, I get the Series X and my kids have the Series S. So, like, to me, it would just seem like a waste of money that I can just wait, right? Especially with everything cross-gen, right? There really hasn't been any next-gen exclusives on the Xbox side. So, I still have my Xbox One X, you know, plugged in. And I wonder how many people feel that way similar to me, where it's like, I'm getting the Series X or I'm not getting anything. And I saw that a lot in my comments. People were like, I don't really care what they're doing because I'm not going to care until I get this new console. And I feel that, man. And it's nice to see that 24 hours later that you can still get one on Amazon. So anybody listening right now who, you know, has the money available, Amazon, I think, still has them in stock. You got to be a Prime member, but I mean, who isn't a Prime member of Amazon? And you can get one, and probably in a couple days you can join Next Generation. So I'm more excited for more and more people to get these next gen systems, because they are a pretty big upgrade over last gen, especially if you had the Xbox One. You know, basically everything is 60 frames for the most part. You know, whether or not it's default 60 or whether or not it has a actual, you know, performance mode, but it's there's a big difference. Everything looks better. So I'm glad to see more stock is available. I just wonder if, like, either this is the beginning of, like, more stock being available, like, more often, or if this is just like a one-time thing and we won't see like another big replenish of Series X for a couple months or whatever, you know? But anyways, Flame in the super chat says, in honor of today, I have to say the new PlayStation Plus will truly end Xbox Game Pass. Who cares about day-and-date games, right, fellas? That's a good, April Fool's joke. And Miles, he says he's the alpha, Jez, not you. So I guess you're the little spoon. Hero, he says, did you guys see Payne's Paul is the lead developer of Fable? He seemed proud of the progress. We may see something based off his positive tweet. I did see. I saw they hired like a lead level designer, which some people will be like, a lead level designer? It's 2022 and you're just getting somebody to design the levels. Like, how many years is it going to take to we finally see this game? I've always been of the opinion, and I think Jez has been right here with me, I've always had Fable pegged for 2024.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more ambitious than we used to from Microsoft.
Right, and people will be like, 2024, but they started working on that game in 2018, which is like, yeah, that's 6 years, right? But then also COVID at some point. And I just think they're really taking their time because they're known for one thing, and that's, you know, the Horizon series, which is the greatest racing series currently going on right now. And, you know, making a racing game is different than making a action RPG, right? The things that you can skimp on in Horizon, like actual story or dialogue or how good your character looks, those things are quite important in an RPG. Wouldn't you say, Jez?
Yeah, they can be sometimes.
Yeah. So they're taking their time, and I look at like another company that was doing FPSs and then did an RPG like Horizon, like Guerrilla, when they went from Killzone Horizon, they took 6 to 7 years to make that first game too. So I think they're pretty much right on target, and I don't know if we'll see something this year. I mean, I would love it because they revealed the game in 2020. But Xbox does have a lot of content coming next year. And I've still have the opinion that they'll wait till next year to show it. But I could be wrong. I mean, Fable is going to be a big game. It's a big franchise. So, although I wonder when, Jez, we're going to see a quote-unquote hit piece about Playground. Although I guess we did see a quote-unquote hit piece about Playground last week, didn't we?
Did we? I've lost track of all the hit pieces.
About the one about the guy who he answered some questions, and then WCCF Tech kind of clickbaited the article to make it seem like.
Oh yeah, that was shtick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I lose track. Like it feels like endemic problems at studios in the game industry. It feels kind of endemic right now. But man, what can you do?
I don't know. Steady Flow says Microsoft is a software company and own their own servers, Azure, while Nintendo and PlayStation hardware companies have to buy from storage from other companies like Amazon and Microsoft. Presumably is what he's talking about the cloud save situation. Let's see. Artemis says the group for the World Cup has been announced. England and the US are the same group play. Will this affect the Xbox 2 relationship?
I got a feeling you don't care that much about football, do you?
You mean soccer?
Oh, yeah, soccer.
Soccer?
You don't care much about soccer.
You're getting Jez's American accent now, huh? It's coming out.
Yeah, soccer.
Let me ask you this: Do you think I care? Do you think I care about soccer, especially like World Cup soccer?
Soccer.
I'd rather.
Man, America's like the odd one out. It's like everyone in the world cares about the World Cup except America. It's interesting.
I'd rather play on my Nintendo Switch than watch the World Cup.
Wow. Do you even like sports? I can't remember.
I mean, I like basketball. Love baseball.
Basketball.
That's what I kind of grew up on. Like my favorite sport growing up was baseball. I'm a big Chicago White Sox fan. That's what I grew up on. We would go. My dad would take me to Comiskey Park like 10 games a year, and my favorite player.
Hang on.
What?
Isn't baseball canceled now?
No. They
I read something about that.
No, there was a what was it? It wasn't a strike. It was a lockout. The owners locked them out, but they came to an agreement.
That's
so
weird.
They're back. So yes, I love baseball. I love basketball. I like football. I'm not the biggest football fan, but I like football. And I mean, hockey's okay.
You don't
I
like
suppose.
soccer?
I'd rather watch all those than watch soccer. Yes.
Soccer.
So no,
Well, that's because America always loses, right?
I just don't care about soccer.
But Xbox sponsors the Seattle. Is it the Sounders? They're called the Seattle soccer football team. They're sponsored by Xbox, I think. I don't know.
Yes, I think Xbox
I don't really
also
care
sponsors
either. I don't really like football.
Some like national teams or something. But yeah, no, it will not affect the Xbox 2 relationship. The only thing that affects the Xbox 2 relationship is, Jez basically just giving Miles everything. I don't get nothing anymore.
Oh,
like
man.
I'm not even a second thought to Jez anymore.
Wow. Do I have to drop some exclusives to balance things out?
No, I know that your whole thing is Windows Central, and I'm okay with that. So plus it's only a day before.
They pay my bills. They pay my goddamn bills.
They sure do. They sure do. Plus, I don't know if I would be comfortable having you leak something like that big on the show, because I'm always the one pushing for you not to leak stuff. You realize that, right?
Sometimes.
How many times have I told you, I don't know if you should really talk about this or leak this stuff?
Occasionally, maybe. Yeah, sometimes.
So
definitely.
Steady Flow says actually took Guerrilla 4 years because they released Killzone Shadowfall in 2013 and Horizon Zero Dawn came out in 2017. That may be the case, but there was articles talking about how long it actually took them to make the game. It was like 6 to 7 years. So even though they were working on Shadowfall for 2013, they were also working on Zero Dawn for quite a bit of time as well. You can just Google those articles. Eddie
for Microsoft points.
Yes, Eddie the Psycho says, "Here's your weekly Scalebound comment. Have you heard any more about it?"
No.
It's a good.
No.
I don't know if you saw, but Platinum announced like 20 games today in some weird press conference.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like I guess Platinum Games announced like 20 games today or something, or 9 games in some weird press conference that people weren't sure was an April Fool's joke or not.
It was, right? Sure.
I'm assuming so. But and Scalebound was not one of them. So, Batnab says
that would have been a good April Fool's joke if they had announced if they had announced Scalebound. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah. Batnap says U.S. women's national team is the best in the world. I'm assuming for soccer as well. So
soccer. Yeah, they're the world champions, aren't they? I think.
So
shame about the men though. They're pretty bad.
I guess so. A lot of people, Jez, want us to talk about the slap heard around the world.
Oh, do we have to?
No, I don't want to talk about it either because I'm sick of it.
I mean, we could talk about it if you want.
No, I don't want to.
What do you think about this?
I don't want to. I don't care. I
you don't care?
I've seen so many opinions about it that it's just like whatever. Like I don't even want to give my opinion on it because I've been inundated with everybody's opinions about it, and I saw some people talking about it in the chat. So I'm like, we figure I gotta bring it up, right? Like the slap, Will Smith, Chris Rock. How do you really feel? What does this really mean? It's just like I don't care. I'm not talking about it. We can just make fun of it. I don't know. Does chat care about it anymore? I mean, it's almost a week old at this point. Skip it.
I thought like it was hilarious though that like they asked Daniel Radcliffe what his opinion was on it, and he was like, "I don't have an opinion," and they made that into a headline. Daniel Radcliffe has no opinion on the slap. Like, what the hell is wrong with our society? And that grabs a headline. The fact that he has no opinion. Oh my god, man! I think the whole slap thing speaks to a deeper problem in our society that even became news. I don't know. I've never actually watched the Oscars because it's always on in the middle of the night in Europe. So I've never watched it ever. And I probably never will because it's always on at 2 a.m.
The last thing I remember watching from the Oscars was when Return of the King was nominated for all the awards and they won. That's the last time I've ever cared about the Oscars. My buddy Gopher is like big into to movies. He's like a doctorate in like film theory or whatever. And he loves like the whole Oscar thing, and he was at his wit's end with like all this stuff, so it was kind of funny talking about it. But yeah, I figured we'd mention it and then not talk about it because who cares at this point? Whatever.
Like whatever.
But did you see the big PlayStation news this week, Jez?
Yes, I did. Although there were rumors there was going to be even bigger PlayStation.
Well, that's what I'm
news.
talking about. Like, you know, I was getting DMs all over the place, right? About Sony having this like big acquisition, and I saw people, you know. So you know, sometimes when I look at my Twitter DMs, people were just like, Rand, what's going on? Or like people would be like, is this really true? Like I think I had 20 when I looked at one point of people being like, something's happening and it'll be today. And if not today, it'll be tomorrow. And if not tomorrow, it'll be the next day. And I saw a whole bunch of people pretending to have information, pretending to be insiders about some big acquisition that was supposedly going to be announced and didn't happen. And it's always like I say, don't listen to those people. Don't listen to those people. Don't listen to people pretending to This is what I hate, okay? I hate these sort of you'll see it and it'll just be like, this week's gonna have some crazy announcements, eye emoji. Right? They're just trying to like engagement farm. Like, they don't know anything, but they're trying to make it seem like they do because there's rumors that this week was going to be a huge week, a massive week in the video game industry. Big news. And and people want to like kind of put themselves in a position where they're like, yeah, I'm part of the cool club. I knew this stuff beforehand, right? So they tweet some like, you know, eye emojis, and they tweet like, oh, today's going to be the day or whatever. And it never ends up being true. It never ends up being true. Ever. Never. Even when it comes to acquisitions, the only time people know stuff super far in advance is when you're Clobrel and you're somehow got back-end access to the Microsoft servers and you see Obsidian's letter of intent, right? Or you're Jez and myself, and someone tells us about the Bethesda deal, which was only 6 hours beforehand. And I know people who knew about the Bungie acquisition 3 hours beforehand. Like, you hear about these things hours beforehand, not like days or weeks beforehand. It's not how this stuff goes. Anybody that really knows this information isn't going to be on social media trying to engagement farm and get retweets and likes and gets people to follow him. Like, those people, they're just they're the shadow brokers. They're not putting that information out. They're not putting that information out like on Twitter. Like, I'm sorry. So like the minute I started seeing stuff like huge acquisition, big news, I was just like, this ain't true. This isn't gonna this stuff does not work this way. You know, the From Software buying the what was the rumor? From Software was going to be bought by Sony, right? That was the rumor that a lot of people were pushing. Not saying that it couldn't happen at some point, but like the idea that fucking a bunch of nobodies, a bunch of jabronis that have 20 people listening to them on their podcast would know of the inner workings of billion-dollar corporations is just a joke. I'm sorry. And not only just a bunch of, but it's a bunch of jabronis. It's not just like one or two.
Jabroni.
It's a whole bunch. Yeah, when the Rock was talking about jabronis,
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're cooking.
Yeah, you smell what I'm cooking?
That's what he says, right?
Yes.
Smell it. Yeah, smell it. Smells like jabroni.
So
Jabroni sauce.
I don't know. Look, there are people that are insiders. They know a lot of stuff, but they're not out on Twitter repeating this stuff. They usually keep to themselves because they don't want to get the information out there. They want to keep their own sources intact because you don't want to burn your sources and stuff, right? But there's also a lot of people out there
cause people to lose their jobs.
Yeah, they don't want to cause people to lose their jobs because some of the stuff, like, is only going to be known by a select few. Like, so they're not going to risk that stuff for Twitter fame. But there's this weird compulsion I notice in the video game industry with people with high follow counts and even people that have low follow counts that want to make it seem like they're in the know. Like, big announcement coming this week, guys. Eye emojis. And then nothing happens, but they want to put it out there because they can point to it on Thursday if something happens. It's like, see, I knew about it. This is what and if nothing happens, they can say, plans change. You know what I mean? So it's just, don't fall for that stuff. Is what I'm trying to say. Don't fall for that stuff.
We won't fall for it.
Well, I mean, you're different. You're a journalist. You get stuff all the time, whether it's from documents or from other sources. So when you say stuff, people tend to listen, but nobody's listening to a bunch of jabronis.
It's not. I don't put stuff out there that I know isn't going to come true.
Like, you're not going to put your name on an article, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to put my name on an article when I know it's not going to come true, like that whole Project Dragon thing that still hasn't been announced. But I know it's going to happen. It'll be like the longest ever delay period between me leaking it and then it actually being made official.
And I told you not to leak that game, by the way.
Yeah, you did. Mm-hmm. But if I hadn't leaked it, someone else would have done because Microsoft didn't keep that information very quiet. And honestly, IO Interactive didn't keep that information very quiet because they literally had a job application on their website under the Dragon team, which was kind of obvious, wasn't it?
And I also told you not to leak Compulsion's game either.
Yeah, you did. But again, that was going to leak anyway. So it kind of becomes like, is it going to be me keeping my job, keeping my boss happy for another couple of weeks? Yeah, actually, I probably shouldn't have leaked that one. But Dragon, IO Interactive leaked that themselves. So
but you got a track record, though. So when you talk about Project Typhoon, which ended up being announced as contraband, people tend to believe it. And you always said if you're not writing about something on Windows Central, you're not like 100%. I got the documents here to back it up and prove it, right? So you're not writing like, I've heard whispers of acquisitions, and because we were sort of burned by that last E3, right?
Well,
Not that me and you were saying was happening, but there was talk that Xbox had acquired
Avalanche,
right?
Yeah.
I forget, was it just Avalanche? But there was other ones, but it was like, oh no, like the people that were talking to us were like, Avalanche is 100% done deal. Like it's done. And it's just like, okay. And then like it didn't happen. And then they were like, well, maybe they'll talk about it during Paris' show. And then they didn't talk about it during Paris' show. And then it was like, and then you just realize, oh yeah, well, you were just, it was just complete bullshit. But,
troll.
Yeah. You always got to be cautious. Punkadish says, here's $5 for not talking about the Oscars BS. Yes. I mean, we didn't definitely not want to talk about it. I just don't care. Hero says, but Special Nick said Sony acquired FromSoft. He bet $100 on it. That's right. He did tell both not only me and Jez, but he even like tweeted about it on Twitter. No, he didn't tweet about it on Twitter. Like a lot of people said that the whole From Software thing Nick started, which wasn't true at all. But
no,
we kind of
was just me trolling.
We kind of blew up his mentions because you said he told you, and I was like, he told me, but then he also told me there's a God of War Ragnarok state of play. Because there was a whole bunch of rumors. There was PSVR 2 thing, which I guess was Grubb mentioned he was trying to track that down. There was supposed to be a big acquisition. Maybe it was Konami. Maybe it was From Software. Maybe it was like the rumors were just completely rampant. And as usual, nothing happened. So,
I mean, could it still happen next week? I mean, what the hell happened this week, man? Like, loads of people were saying, I got loads of DMs too, and I was like, man, is there something to this? But there almost never is.
No, do you remember back in September this past year when a lot of Xbox fans were like, there's going to be an acquisition on the anniversary of Bethesda. Remember that? And people were like, the acquisition's coming, and a lot of people were like, eye emojis back then too. Like, it's happening. And a lot of people are like, it's going to be Take-Two. They're going to get them on the anniversary. And it's like, bro, like, if it really is Take-Two, you're not going to know about it 2 weeks in advance. Like, the Activision Blizzard thing surprised literally everybody. Even Jason Schreier was like, I found out about it 3 minutes before it was announced or whatever, right? He mentioned he knew about Bungie like that morning, which I know somebody who knew about the Bungie thing 3 hours beforehand. But even still, like, that stuff's not talked about weeks in advance. I'm sorry, it just isn't. So I'm not saying that From Software is not going to get acquired by Sony in the future. I'm just saying that, little Joe Blows and jabronis on social media, they're not going to know about it in advance. It's just going to happen. And you'll wake up one day and you'll see it on Twitter, or it'll just happen, and there won't be any, won't be braced for impact. But that was a lot of it. A lot of it this week was there's going to be this really big news, and there really wasn't. So, and Special Nick, as much as I love to, kind of needle Special Nick about stuff, he wasn't responsible for this. So, yes.
No.
Anyways, let's get to some of the topics. You guys are enjoying the show. Make sure you hit that like button. Let's talk about I don't know, what do you want to hear to talk about? Oh, we'll briefly mention this because we kind of mentioned this the last couple times, and it's actually good news this time instead of bad news. But Xbox Twitter share is back, Jez. They put it back into the insider rings, alphas, and all those, and they won't be removing it. So Xbox kind of did what you said. You were pretty much very much out there talking, I wouldn't say negatively, but criticizing them. And I think all you need to do now is make an article talking about Windows Phone, and maybe they'll come back. You got the power, right? So,
maybe, I don't know. Well, I just thought it was so strange, because I use it, and a lot of people use it, but of course, there's a bias there, because obviously, if I'm on Twitter all the time, and I'm going to see it, and of course I'm going to use it, but most people aren't on Twitter. The vast majority of people don't use Twitter. Like, Twitter's like it's funny because Twitter has like such an influence over things, but only like it's only got 100 million users. Like Xbox and PlayStation combined have way more users than Twitter.
I think
But
Twitter is
Twitter
like
still has this.
320 million users, but go
I
ahead.
don't think so. Isn't it like 100 million per month or something? I don't know off the
Mm,
top of my head, but compared to Facebook or something,
oh, sure, yeah.
it doesn't have like it doesn't have the kind of mega footprint that it would. And so yeah, maybe not a lot of people use it or whatever. And there's a sort of like, I don't know, a bias there. And like when we made a lot of noise about it on Twitter, obviously the people who are on Twitter are going to be upset about it because they're on Twitter and they use Twitter and maybe they use these features as well. So I put out tweets about it and I was like, well, that's strange that they'd remove this without saying anything about it. I also thought it was egregious that they didn't mention it in their patch notes, kind of like sneakily trying to slip it under the radar there, hoping no one would notice. But of course, I use it all the time, so I did notice. I did notice immediately. I was like, hang on a sec, this isn't right. This isn't good. So I put an article out there. It wasn't negative. It was just like, yeah, they removed it. Maybe there's a good reason for removing it. And I did hear some rumors about why they're removing it, like something to do with API or something. I don't know. I don't know exactly the details, but it was something to do with Twitter updating its API or something, and then Xbox maybe didn't see the usage. I don't know. Just vague sort of rumors. And but they asked for feedback, and then obviously people complained about it. Lots of people moaned about it, and now they're keeping it. But I did think it was weird because we do live in this sort of this social era where things can go viral on your TikToks and your Instagrams, and they made the game DVR worse when all people complain about with Xbox, and like when I surveyed people, you know, in our audience, the game DVR was like one of the top things that they wanted to see fixed or improved, you know. And they made it worse instead of better, which just boggled the mind, you know. So they're reverting that change now for whatever reason, and I don't know. That's it. That's the whole story.
Yeah, so after a couple weeks of
We
talking
bitched
about it
and I
and
fixed it.
you know being like, I don't know why you would do this, they're putting it back so you guys can. This is the thing I'll say is make sure you use it because Microsoft is very data driven on a lot of their features. Where if they feel the numbers are really low, they'll just get rid of something. That's what happened. That's one of the reasons why they got rid of Snap. Remember Snap, where you could snap something to the side. There's even to this day there's a lot of people that are diehard for like, oh man, I wish Snap was that back, but like nobody used Snap, at least to the point where it, nobody used it enough to justify the resources it was taking away from games and other things, right? So it's just like, okay, we'll get rid of it. So
my whole thing with Microsoft is like I think they focus on percentages too much. I think like they'll look at something and be like, oh, only 2% of users use this, but it's still thousands of individuals. Yeah, it's not millions of individuals, but it's still thousands of individuals that use and enjoy this feature. Are they not worth keeping the feature for? Like, are you going to take something away and give something back that more people will want to use, or are you just going to screw over those few thousand users? Yeah, it's a small percentage, but it's still thousands of individuals. So I think there's a bias in that sort of mentality that, yeah, maybe it's only 2% or 1% or 5% or whatever, low percentage, but it's still thousands of people who use the feature. So maybe the fact more people don't use it is because A, it's either not advertised very well, or B, it's not good enough and clunky. But the fact that some people are using it at all should give you a hint that some people like it at least. I would bet that most people don't even know that Twitter sharing even exists, and maybe Microsoft should do more to advertise that fact. And I bet like most people didn't know Snap existed back in the day, except for like the hardcore people and stuff. Most people just log onto their Xbox and just turn on Fortnite and just play away, and they don't think about sharing and stuff like that. But It's like Nintendo has these features and PlayStation has these features, and just because it's a lower percentage of people, I don't think that justifies removing a feature that we've had for a million years.
No,
I don't know.
no.
Maybe I'm wrong.
But hey, I mean, everybody voiced their opinion, they gave feedback, and they changed it. So like, all I'm saying is just use it and use it a lot, so they don't have any reason to be like, let's get rid of it because nobody uses it. So, Andy Hart says thoughts on the series Elite console. Is it real? So this
No.
has come up quite a bit. So your initial reaction is going to be no, right? Absolutely not.
I don't think it's real.
You don't think it's real, or do you know it's not real?
I just don't think it's real. I don't know that it's not real, but I think it's way too early for them to have even started thinking about. Well, I'm sure they're thinking about it, but I don't think they're not pushing ahead with, getting ready to set it up. That being said, Rand, there is a new version of the Xbox operating system floating about out there,
Okay.
which I thought was interesting. There is a new version of the full Xbox operating system, the Windows-based Xbox operating system, a new SKU, and we, I think it was, it's widely expected that this is back-end related, server related, maybe, but maybe it isn't. Maybe they are working on a completely new version of the Xbox operating system. I don't know, and maybe they're working on it specifically for a new console. I don't know, but I somehow doubt it. I think I genuinely believe Microsoft's going to be releasing some kind of handheld in the future. Android, but it'll be Android based, not Windows or Xbox based. It'll be an Android based sort of handheld, similar to the Razer thing they put out, their prototype last year. And it'll revolve around cloud streaming and maybe like some native mobile games. Because if Microsoft does land Activision Blizzard, they're going to have a huge amount of mobile games. Diablo Immortal, even though people trolled the hell out of Diablo Immortal, it's going to be a massive game. It's probably going to be bigger than Diablo 3. It's going to make a ton of money. I just know from playing the beta, it's the kind of game that mobile gamers like. It's super high quality. The gameplay loop's really short. It's addictive. It's got microtransactions. It's gonna blow up like crazy. And I can see a future where Diablo Immortal has Xbox branding on it, and where it has Xbox achievements, and you sign in with Xbox Live, or you can sign in with Battle.net or Xbox Live, or maybe Xbox Live gets folded into Battle.net. I don't know. There's loads of places that could take this, but I do increasingly think that Microsoft's future has a handheld in it somewhere. But again, I don't think that'll be Windows based or Xbox based. So, are they working on an Elite Xbox SKU? Maybe, but I don't think the rumors of an Xbox Elite are anything to do with that. I think that's just pure speculation right now.
So when do you remember when you found out about the One X? When you found out about the code name for it in your documents?
Yeah.
Do you remember how far away it was from it being revealed? Like, was it a significant time? Because you found out about I want to say I remember Next Gen, like when you found out about Scarlet and Anaconda and Lockhart. That was a good 2 years before it launched, right? That was like in 2018.
Yeah, that was I was actually Zach Bowden, my colleague, Zach Bowden on Windows Central is kind of like to Windows and Surface what I am to Xbox. And honestly, a lot of my Xbox leaks actually have come from Zach Bowden as well. He passed them to me. So he has a lot of expertise about what Microsoft's doing on the Windows side. And sometimes that bleeds over to Xbox because obviously Xbox is based on Windows. So it was actually him who got the Scarlet codename first, before absolutely anyone had Scarlet codename. It was Zach Bowden on Windows Central. And I think we published that years in advance. But I honestly cannot remember where I got the One X stuff from. It's been a long time. It's been a damn long time. I'd have to look that up, man. And I actually think I overrode the article from that original leak. Because I remember Tom Warren DM'd me and he was like, I was going to backlink to your One X leak, but you overrode it with a different article. And I was like, yeah, because they wanted to use the URL for something else. And so I don't even know if I can look that up anymore, but I don't know. It's all fun and games in the blogging world, but I don't know, man. But if they are working on an Elite, Microsoft's changed a lot of its processes around this stuff specifically to stop leaks. I don't know if I'd get this information as easily as I did before, whereas I did with like Scarlet. I had a ton of information about Series S and X. Remember, like it was basically Windows Central was saying Lockhart exists and there's going to be 2 SKUs. Nobody believed us. Nobody believed us. Analysts didn't believe us. The big websites didn't believe us. They were like, this Lockhart thing's just made up. The Series S doesn't exist. It's just made up. We were called liars on NeoGAF and Reset Era. And lo and behold, not only did it exist, we had the price for it. We had the CPU, we had the clock speed for it. We had everything for the Series S. But honestly don't know if we get that same information now about a Series Elite thingy-mabob, because they've changed a lot of their processes, because that was a significant leak. You know, and Brad Sams dropped the pictures for the Series S. You know, the famous eye emoji that Josh Stein tweeted from the Xbox account.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Josh Stein.
Yes, probably was. Yes,
hundreds of thousands of likes. You know, the famous reaction to the leak. You know, leaning into it. Great social media moment for Xbox. Although probably a lot of panic at the same time. But I don't know. You just have to wait and see. That's the thing in this business. There's no set path to get some of this stuff sometimes. It's messy.
Yeah,
man.
I'm just because there's still the opinion, like we're still we're not even 2 years into the gen, right? And even though we talked about Series X being more available at Amazon, there's still stock shortages for the consoles. And there's already people talking about like PS5 Pro and like a Series X Elite, and where would that fit in the roadmap? And is there even going to be mid-gen refreshes this time and stuff? And, you know, I think like, okay, well, if there's a PS5 Pro, but Xbox doesn't do a refresh, is that bad for Xbox? If like Sony puts out a PS5 Pro that's, you know, hypothetically whatever, 14 teraflops, and they got the Power Crown back, and Xbox doesn't do a mid-gen refresh, does that look bad for them?
I don't know. I mean, Sony banks so heavily now on games quality and games abundance. I think Microsoft could afford to lose the Power Crown for a few years, because in a few years, Xbox Game Pass is going to be so abundant. If they do close the Activision Blizzard deal, we're going to have like Call of Duty on Game Pass. We're going to have Diablo 4 shaping up. It sounds like it's incredible. Diablo 4, they just announced, has 150 randomized dungeons, which is like orders of magnitude more than Diablo 3 did at base. And, you know, Diablo 4 is going to be huge. It's going to be massive. It's going to be amazing. I'm so hyped for Diablo 4. Like, tears in my eyes, hyped for that game. And all of this stuff's going to be on Game Pass. So Microsoft will have like such a potent value proposition that I think they could afford to lose the power argument for a bit. And like Sony will be putting themselves in another situation where they're struggling with chip shortages, because I don't think this chip shortage thing's going away in the short term. I think it's still going to be a thing in 2023. We're still going to be talking about chip shortages. Although like they've sort of is it Biden or Biden? I can never pronounce his name right. Biden? Is it Biden or Biden? Biden.
It's Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. Joe Bizzle. He said that they've lowered some of the tariffs on Chinese manufacturing, which has brought GPU prices down. That might actually be part of the reason why Microsoft's finding it easier to get some of the components for the Xbox Series X, because maybe the tariffs, they've released some of the tariffs on some components for China, which maybe has brought GPU prices down, and or it's bringing them down. I think they said by May, I think off the top of my head, that GPU prices would reach an attractive price, quote unquote. But what they consider an attractive price may differ very, very sharply from the community at large. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't think it's a good climate to really be pushing ahead with another new SKU right now. And honestly, the power narrative hasn't really driven console sales as much as it used to, because, you know, Sony, the gap between the PlayStation 5 and the Series X isn't really presenting itself right now. A lot of games run better on PS5. That's just a fact. You know, when you get Digital Foundry and you start, you know, you get your magnifying glass and really look at it, some games run slightly better on the PS5. But the difference is so small right now that it's hard to really justify having a power narrative at all. So And again, it's kind of like, do they even need to push ahead with a mid-gen refresh? I don't think so. I think if I was Sony, I'd be looking at pushing like a cheaper option, something even like smaller, maybe less powerful but faster. Basically, Sony needs a Series S, is what I'm saying. They need a PS4 Pro, you know, something that's cheaper, more easy to manufacture, has the value proposition, and can like take on Microsoft in that segment of the market. That's what I think. I don't think we need to talk about power narratives right now when like, you know, consoles are struggling to even get ray tracing going, and a lot of the, you know, APIs for some of this stuff aren't even fully baked yet. Like, are any games even using direct storage APIs yet? You know, and AMD said they're bringing super resolution to Xbox Series X this summer, I think they said, or something. Like, how long before we even start seeing that being used in games? I mean, maybe in like a couple of years, the Series X power will start to present itself more, and the gap will widen between PS5 and Xbox Series X, but it hasn't happened right now. So if I had to predict, I don't think we even need to be talking about mid-gen refreshes right now. And do we even need to have a mid-gen refresh this gen? I don't know, but I guess we'll wait and see. You know, it depends how much technology moves on, and could they refine these consoles and get more juice out of them? Maybe, but ray tracing hasn't been, even on PC. Ray tracing hasn't really been the silver bullet that everyone, you know, as much as there was a lot of hype around ray tracing that I didn't think panned out personally, but I don't know.
Well, at least it hasn't panned out yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only reason I brought it up was because I wanted to know like the time frame of past information regarding mid-gen refreshes and console launches to like when someone like you or Brad Sams or Tom Warren or anybody would actually potentially get that information. You know, if they were planning on doing a mid-gen refresh, it, you know, unless Microsoft suddenly became a lot better at holding on to information, like when people would essentially, you know, find that information out, and if it would be like, oh well, you know, we'd find out about it this year, and we know that the console will be coming in 2024. But I don't know. I'm kind of with Jez where I think like the chip shortage maybe is kind of, if there is a mid-gen refresh, I think it's kind of pushed it a little bit further out. But who knows, really. Andy Hart says, why did Forza Motorsport 7 get removed from the store, Jez?
I didn't even know about this, but I'd have to guess it's something to do with licenses.
Yeah,
that's usually why Forza games get removed.
Most of the Forza games typically get removed like after 4 years, I think, and it's for licensing reasons. I'm not sure if Forza Motorsport 7 got removed, which now that I'm thinking about it, I think it actually did get removed because I think they gave it away for free. No, I'm pretty sure it got removed because they said like if you had played it during Game Pass, you could actually buy the game for $10 or something like that. It was like something like really cheap. So yeah, there is no like Forza Motorsport game available, I think, on Xbox that you could buy right now because of the licensing. But there should be a new Forza Motorsport this year, hopefully, for the people that enjoy that franchise.
How do you feel about this? Like, how do you feel about the way that Forza games, because they use so much licensed assets, they end up disappearing from the internet? Isn't that strange? Should they use non-licensed cars? Would that detract from, if they use made-up brands for cars, would that detract from the game as a racing game fan?
Yes, because I think it's like I would liken it to like FIFA or Madden, right? Nobody wants to play a football game with made-up teams. So anytime a company tried to do that, those games would fail. Nobody wants to play a soccer game with made-up teams. Nobody wants to play a basketball with made-up teams. And I really think nobody really wants to play a driving game with made-up cars. Right?
Well, isn't that what EA is doing next time? Because they lost the license for FIFA, right? The next FIFA game is going to be called EA Sports Football or something weird like that, if I remember right. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did hear that, but I guess we have to see how, you know, that's presented, right? Is it not going to have the real players? Because that's what I think what matters is like the real players and stuff. But no, I really don't think like if Forza Motorsport was like made up cars, I think the excitement around it would be not as good. Because the whole point is like being able to drive like a car you can't afford and going really fast, and not like some make believe car, right? So.
Yeah.
Andy Hart says, Rand and Jez, have you played Crusader Kings 3? If you have thoughts, I'm hearing good things about it. I have not.
Oh, haven't. I really want to play it though. It's a 4X strategy game set in like Europe, ancient Europe or whatever, and you do all the. It's like medieval royal politics kind of game, and you do all the dirty backhanded stuff, stab people in the back, and send your armies to attack people and stuff like that. I do want to play it. It's just come out for Xbox, and it's on Game Pass as well. It launched on Game Pass for PC as well, and it's a pretty popular game. I do want to try it, but I haven't gotten around to it yet because I got addicted to World of Warcraft again. Sigh.
You're always addicted to that game. Don says EA only lost the name FIFA. They still have the clubs and leagues. So there you go.
Okay.
I don't think it impacted very much.
What? Why would
I think FIFA wanted more money. FIFA? I think FIFA wanted like $2 billion more or something for the name, and I think EA at that point's like, well, that's starting to cut into our profit margins. Maybe we can actually release a soccer game, without the name FIFA and save money. It'll be interesting to see how EA's game does without the name FIFA attached to it, right? Will there be a significant drop off? Will somebody else try to come in and make a soccer game with the name FIFA attached to it, like 2K or something? Try to get on that market? I don't know. The Scarecrow's been a member for, a whopping 26 months, says, over 2 years of being a member? Wow, 2 years ago was before the series release and Bethesda acquisition. Good times keep on rolling. Indeed they do. Thank you for being a member for 26 months. And Don also says, also Burnout Mario Kart and every Mario Sports game is still popular without real players. Well, Burnout doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, and I would agree with you that Burnout is a fantastic game, and Mario is just on its own level. It just like Mario's just completely different. I don't think you can apply that to Nintendo franchises. And Mario Kart's just it's not trying to be realistic. But like Motorsport and Gran Turismo and FIFA and Madden, those are trying to be realistic. So I think that matters. At least my personal opinion, I think that matters. Nintendo just is like they're on like an island to themselves. They can do whatever they want, and people love it. People eat it up.
You're not into that Kirby game everyone's going mad about?
A Kirby game
where
you
can be a car. Yeah, you can be a car.
Oh.
No. You can be a Kirby car. No, not interested.
I've never played a Kirby game in my life.
Well, how do you know? It might be your favorite game of all time.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I mean, I played Mario games. I played a Zelda game. I played Metroid games. I played Donkey Kong. I've never played a Kirby game. I don't know what does it even play like.
They're like platformers, aren't they? Action platformers. Actually, I think Kirby was the first ever Nintendo game that I played on the original Game Boy. I think so. I was down the pub as a kid, and there was another kid at the pub, and he had a Game Boy with Kirby on it. And I was like, oh my god, this is the best thing I've ever experienced. Because I had a Game Gear, and it sucked. It was really bad. Game Gear wasn't bad, but I think I only had bad games for it. I had Crash Test Dummies on the Game Gear. My god, that was a terrible game. Horrible game. Oh man, I'm getting nostalgic now. Do you remember the 90s, Rand, when everything was better? Everything was simple and easy. There was no social media. There was no microtransactions, or there was no clickbait, and there was well, I suppose you had your tabloids, but there was no complexity. Everything was simple. Do you remember those times, Rand?
Yes.
I remember.
I remember those times.
I remember.
I remember those times indeed. I love the 90s. That's kind of when I The 90s,
jam.
see, I was still in grammar school, and then that's when I hit high school. So, good times, good times. The other bit of big news this week, we still have the family plan that me and Jez have to discuss, and some of the other stuff is E3 is canceled, which shouldn't shock anybody.
Rip.
And I think it's never coming back. I remember when E3 was they canceled it for 2020. I said, you know what? It's never coming back, and that's kind of the way it looks. So they couldn't even do a digital presentation this year. So yeah, I think the fact that it's gone. I don't think it's coming back next year, even though they say it is. And Jeff Keighley's just going to try to do his best to do an E3 replacement, even though that one's like a bunch of whole advertisements. That's a Summer Games Fest is just full of it. So is this like the end of an era?
Is it a reset era? No, I don't know. Will E3 ever come back? I don't know, man. Like it feels like COVID kind of accelerated some trends that were going to happen regardless. I think work from home was going to happen regardless eventually. Like it makes less sense than ever to force everyone into an office when there's all these cloud services that can do all this stuff. And all that a lot of companies developed new technology specifically for work from home game development. Microsoft announced a bunch of new stuff at GDC that was all about remote development. So did the Unreal team for Unreal Engine, and and also Microsoft announced like independent development at Azure, which gives like indie devs easier access to cloud services for much cheaper and stuff. I think like across the board of accelerated trends, E3 dying was one of the trends that was just happening. Like in an age of direct to consumer marketing, Sony and Nintendo had already pulled out. A lot of other companies had pulled out because they didn't want to pay the ESA's fees. Microsoft carried on supporting them because obviously they've got infinite money and they can support them all the time. And the ESA like lobbies the government, for favorable terms for the game industry. So I think that's partially why Microsoft keeps funding them and stuff. But will E3 come back? Who knows, man? Like the UK is already talking about going back into lockdown. There's like a new variant. I don't know if you've seen the news. Like everyone's like acting like the pandemic's over, but there's a new subvariant now of Omicron, which is sending England's infection rate back up. And the government said you should start wearing masks again on public transport. It just feels like it's going to keep going and keep going and keep going until it's, evolved into a weaker virus, or literally everybody has some kind of immunity to it. But I can't see it coming back next year. Like, why? Like increasingly, like sort of like media companies as well, they're looking at their budgets and they're thinking like, instead of sending 5 journalists to Los Angeles for thousands of dollars, because you have to pay, especially in the UK, in the case of European press, it's thousands of dollars in flights, thousands of dollars on hotels, and then like expenses like food and stuff like that, when you can just do it all remotely via a service like Parsec. And I'm sure Microsoft will probably like package xCloud as a way for developers to showcase their games remotely eventually as well. Like all the previews for Ghostwire Tokyo, they were all remote. You did them like you could play the game remotely. And sure, it depends on having a solid internet connection and stuff. But I've only got 100 meg down where I am in Germany, and it worked fine for me. It's the world's changed. The world has changed, and E3, is there a place for E3 in that new world? I don't know if there is. And it's a shame, man, because I met so many cool people.
Me and you met at E3.
Yeah, we did.
I mean,
I tweeted out.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great people I met at E3. It does suck. But I feel like change was coming regardless, right? Especially now when these companies can do digital presentations. I think like Phil really likes the presence of fans and the energy that they give during those press shows, those moments, which is why I think Xbox will go back to doing XO, because I do think they want to have an event with fans. You know, that's why Fan Fest was created, where you can get fans together, and it's like a big extended group of people who like the same thing. And Fan Fest was great. So yeah, I'm not really surprised that they canceled it this year. I don't think it's ever going to come back to what it was, because why would anybody need to pay for showroom floor when, you know, your digital presentations are doing just fine? I don't know about Jeff Keighley doing the Summer Games Fest as a replacement, because I'll be honest, the last 2 times his show hasn't really been good. At least I don't think it's as good as his video game the Game Awards at the end of the year. And honestly, there was something cool about all the news that you could want is centered in like this 4 or 5 day period, right? Everybody had a press conference. You had Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo when they, you know, used to do the press conferences before they just would do their Treehouse stuff. Ubisoft, EA, like everybody would have their things. You'd have the 2 conferences, then you have the showroom floor stuff. It was really cool getting all that information. But then when 2020 happened, like people were like, well, some people will talk about it in June, some people will talk about it in July, some people talk about it in August. It was really fractured, and it just wasn't as enjoyable. So I know Xbox was, you know, really big supporters of the ESA, like Jez said. So now that E3 is dead, Jez, this comes the question of when can we expect an Xbox, the next event, right? They just had a Twitch event for ID at Xbox where like Tunic was shadow dropped into Game Pass, and they announced some other games. People have been waiting to hear more information and stuff about Starfield. They want to see that first gameplay. They want to know when Redfall is going to launch, if it's actually launching this year. What other games are going to come from Xbox? They want to know about the 2023 lineup. So what do you, when should we expect an Xbox show? Because there's been some people have DM'd me about like, hey, have you heard anything about a May show for Xbox? Or like an April show? I don't know if you've gotten any of those, but with E3 dead, do you think Xbox will sort of support Summer Games Fest in the same way they supported ESA, and we can expect an Xbox show, typical one, like sometime in June, or somewhere different, or sometime different?
Man, I don't know. Like last time, we were expecting June, but didn't they push it out to July or August, if I remember right? I can't even remember.
What, in 2020?
It's been so long. Yeah.
So they had the first showing, which didn't go over well, I think in May, or maybe it was April. And then the actual showcase was in July, like end of July. Last year they did the show in June, the second week of June. So
yeah, so maybe because they've got more flexibility, maybe they'll delay it out a bit and maybe push it back to July. Just speculating, you know. I think that we'll have a show. I think they need to have a show. Like people expect it to. People are really expecting them to have a show, so they'll probably have a show. But I have no idea as and when. You know, it's really hard to sort of put a guesstimate on some of that stuff because, you know, plans can fluctuate, and maybe they'll give developers a sort of, not a deadline, but like a target for making a vertical slice. Say for example, Avowed, and they'll be like, we want you to have a 5-minute vertical slice of Avowed, so we can make a trailer or do a presentation, blah 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 blah. And they'll give them a June deadline, and then they're like, well, we need to push it. We're not quite ready yet. Maybe they give them more time and push it out to July a little bit and stuff like that. Gives a bit more flexibility. And of course, I'm speculating there. But it's hard to pin down. They'd probably like to have it in June, just for tradition's sake, but maybe it does get pushed to July or even August. Maybe they try and line it up with Gamescom, because Gamescom is taking place this year, which I think is hilarious, because I think by the time the summer comes around, this new sub-variant will probably be all over Germany, and they'll probably have to cancel Gamescom as well. But who knows, eh? Maybe they'll only let vaccinated people in or something. I have no idea. But
yeah,
it's all fun and games.
It is all fun and games. Ed says, "Hey Jez, thoughts on Keystone being related to the Xbox Game Pass family plan? Could see the device used to restrict the service to devices within a house?" So
The plan is to the plan is to restrict family plan to within a country, not to a device or to a household. So it's going to be within a country. So,
but that doesn't have anything to do with Keystone, right? Because he said
Keystone's the
Keystone,
operating system,
right? And a lot of people are talking about Keystone being like a new system or something else. So,
yeah, Keystone is full blown Windows. So I expect that to be server related or something. But who knows? You know, it's hard. It's really hard to say on that. The name might be a giveaway there, that it's some kind of bridge or something. I don't know. It's hard to place, really. Need more information.
Achievement says, "Do you think IOI talking about Hitman and Azure is a leak behind the technology behind Project Dragon? Also, possible more close Microsoft integration?"
I think like IO did a talk at GDC about using Azure on their backend, and yes, like in the documents, it talks heavily about the fact that Microsoft has to be the partner for this game because they need the cloud power. It's an MMO. It's going to have a continuous world like Lost Ark, like World of Warcraft. It's an MMO. It needs servers, right? So they're partnering heavily with Microsoft for that reason, and it's going to be heavily integrated with Microsoft stuff. It's not like a timed exclusive. This is like a full blown Microsoft exclusive, fully funded for and integrated with PlayFab, GameStack, and Azure. So yeah, I mean, it's another hint, and it confirms what I've got in documentation that it's going to be a full blown Azure based MMO kind of RPG sort of game.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what that game looks like when it's revealed. I really, really like IOI and all the games that they've made, so they haven't let me down.
I don't know if it's going to be like. I don't know if it's going to be like. More like Destiny, where there's like a social hub and then you go off in little teams to do dungeons and stuff, or if it's going to be like, you know, more like World of Warcraft, where you can see basically everyone at all times. I don't know that bit for sure right now, but it is heavily online, always online multiplayer action RPG. That's how it's going to be.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Well, since you've talked about it, let's talk about the Xbox Game Pass family plan, the thing that you talked about on Miles' show Checkpoint, as well as Windows Central article. Tell the people all about it.
So yeah, big news of the week from myself. Big exclusive we got there. Xbox Family Plan. Now I'd been hearing for a long time actually that Microsoft had been exploring getting a family plan and exploring putting the sort of the deals in place with publishers about how this would work as pertains to royalties and, you know, things of that nature, you know, because, you know, they do royalty payments for some of the stuff they do with Game Pass as part of the deals. So like you get a lump sum up front, and then I think for some devs they get like a royalty bonus based on engagement. So if the game really blows up in Game Pass, they also get like some extra money as well. So I think some of those details when it comes to family plans needed to be worked out, because obviously it's like, well, if they're all playing on the same account in the same household, does this count as additional engagement? Or, you know, those kind of things. It's sort of like those kind of details that needed to be worked out. And from what I've heard, the details have been worked out and they are moving ahead with it. They are moving ahead with a plan to have a full-blown family plan, which is going to work using the family system that's already in place for things like Office, because you can share Office with 5 people if you've got a family plan for Microsoft Office. And also Microsoft's got the family app for controlling, you know, kids' payments and kids' accounts, the Xbox family app thingy mabob. So this is just an extension of all the work they've already been doing. And obviously you can share Xbox Game Pass amongst 2 accounts because you get a cloud license and a local license. But that creates like a range of problems. That creates like potential security holes because it's not really designed to work that way. Like if you are signed into your account and you haven't properly set up a passcode, like I literally saw this week, on Reddit, someone posted a clip of their email address, and their little kid had spent like $500 on V-Bucks.
Ooh, jeez.
Yeah, so because like they didn't properly have their account set up to protect against that scenario, you know. So it's sort of like if you are account sharing, that defeats the point of Microsoft's, you know, family security systems. So of course they wanna get these family settings in place. You know, Nintendo has them already. I don't know if Sony has them, but Nintendo does. Like I've got a family plan for Nintendo Online, which I share with my brother and stuff like that. And that's what they're doing. That's what they're going to move ahead with. Now, when it comes to pricing, I don't know right now. Or suffice to say that it will be significantly cheaper than buying 5 separate licenses outright, and stuff. So I don't know how much that would cost. Like 15 times 5. What's that, Rand? You're the mathematician.
75.
Oh wow, that was impressive.
15 times 5, 75. Yeah.
Oh man, Randall genius. Nah, I failed math at school. Believe it or not. But yeah, that's the point though. That's the whole point. It's like, the whole point is value, and like making it cheaper and easier and more accessible than having to buy 5 separate accounts, because like the bigger bigger your family is, the more ridiculous it gets, right? If you've got like I don't know, five Xboxes in the house, you essentially get punished if you want to like all be on Game Pass, even though like you're in the same house. It's kind of weird. And that's why like Netflix and Disney Plus has a family plan, because it's just a bit weird to have to like pay for multiple licenses when you can otherwise
Netflix is starting to
share.
I wonder how easy it's going to be to actually do this, right? Because even though it's really easy to game share on Xbox, which Xbox doesn't really talk about because you're not supposed to talk about that, right? It's still like you have to trust somebody enough to give them your information, right? It's just technically against terms of service. Like you got to give them your password information, their email, right? So you got to trust somebody pretty good. Like I trust my buddy Sam, and we game share, right? So I wonder how easy it's going to be for the person who controls who's paying for it. Essentially, is it just basically, hey, give me your gamer tag, and boom, like you're part of my thing.
I'll tell you.
You know,
I can tell you how it works. It works exactly the same as Office works. So the way Office works is you log into the account's website on Microsoft.com. So you go to accounts.microsoft.com, and then you literally set up your family there. Like you can do it right now if you want. You set up your family, and you basically just by inviting their email address, you can do it right now. You don't have to wait till this family sharing stuff comes out. You can set up your family plan right now, because obviously this is how it works with Microsoft Office. And also this is how you manage child accounts on Xbox Live as well. And then basically you just enable it. It's like, yeah, I share Xbox Game Pass or Microsoft Office to this account and this account and this account, and then that's it. Job's done. And then
it's gonna be super easy to, basically start.
Yeah.
You can have up to 5. So not only because normally like Netflix, Hulu, all these other subscription services, they basically say in your household, right? Now I'm a part of my buddy Sam's Netflix, and I'm not in Sam's household. And there's some reports that Netflix is going to try to, charge people for essentially what I'm doing, right? But I think you said that it's going to be 5 people in the country, so I could get my group of friends, one of us pays for it, and all 5 of us can enjoy the benefits of Xbox Game Pass. That seems to be incredibly, incredibly consumer friendly for one. Like to open it up to the country, where only you have to pay for it, and just incredibly like user friendly, especially if the way you're talking about how it's like, okay, all you gotta do is just give me the gamer tag and you're set up, and you're not gonna do anything else, and everybody can enjoy. Now, I guess is this strictly just for regular $10 Xbox Game Pass, or is this like Game Pass Ultimate, which includes PC as well as Xbox Live Gold?
Well, those details are kind of like some of the information that I don't have. Like, is it just going to be like the basic PC Game Pass and console Game Pass, or is it going to be full Game Pass Ultimate? You know, I don't have a lot of these details right now, so some of this is just kind of speculation at the most. But I would expect it to maybe be Game Pass Ultimate, because that's sort of like the tier. If they, you know, they want to get, it's a premium thing in a way, to like get all your family on it as well. But maybe they'll be flexible. Maybe they'll let people pick and choose which services they want to access. But at that point, it starts getting complicated too, you know. So it's really hard to speculate which way they'll go.
Well,
with this.
I figured they'd want to at least have the one where people can play online, right? So Ultimate probably makes the most sense, and they can probably have it higher tier for it. So, do you have any idea on pricing? Like, what are your some thoughts on that? Like, if I'm basing it off Ultimate, which makes the most sense considering it's the highest one, and you can, you know, basically be like, oh, you can have Ultimate and it's this. I would think you're talking like Ultimate for 5 people. If 5 people were paying it, would be what, $75, like you said, right?
Yeah.
I think, you know, $40 would be pretty good. 45. I mean, that's $30 off. Maybe 35 at the low end. Like, what do you think the pricing would be?
I think I would expect it to be around half. So, you know, 35 maybe. I wouldn't expect it to be $40. That doesn't sound super attractive, especially when you compare it to things like Nintendo's family plan. So, I don't know. I think 35 sounds in a sort of ballpark, but even then, I have no information about what the pricing structure is going to be. Maybe they'll offer like different tiers. Maybe they'll be like, well, you can do 3 people at 25 or something, and 5 people at 35. I don't know, but again, that adds complexity. I mean, if I had to compare it to, I mean, we can compare it to Microsoft Office. Let's go to office.com and have a look, see how it works on Microsoft Office. So bear with me one moment. Where do we even manage this shit? I don't even know. I don't know. Hang on a sec. Bear with me, Rand. Office family plan. Well, they call it Microsoft 365 now, don't they? Okay, so Microsoft 365 is like a whole new thing. They don't even call it Office anymore, which is strange. With Office for families, blah blah blah. Let's get your Office set up. Yeah, I'm already set up. Hang on, bear with me, Rand.
I'm bearing with you.
It's all new. They've changed it all. It's got a new layout and shit. It's all really strange. So, like, even on Office, you've got this family safety app, which is basically how it's all gonna work, right? Because we all know now Microsoft's all about these family plans and these subscription services. And like, I can see here, like my family. Try the family safety app, activity reporting, content filters, and they can just literally add people and stuff. And so, like, the leader is like the family organizer, it says in here, which I guess is how it's going to work. Oh man, I just can't easily find the price of all this shit. But it's maybe I can find it on Microsoft account, maybe. Manage Microsoft 365. Like, there's a big link at the top. Services and subscriptions. So that's probably where it's going to live. You go into services and subscriptions. And, right, Office apps, manage subscription. So it's £80 per year for Microsoft 365 family plan. So what is that in? Like, I can click switch plan. And if I switch plan, it's monthly. That's $8, £8 per month to do it monthly. So, and that gets me 5 accounts. So what is that if I'm paying for it by myself? I think Microsoft Office is pretty cheap. I think it's something like $5 a month or something.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
cheap.
cheap.
Yeah, it's like $4.99, I think, for a personal account. That's like less than double for 5 extra accounts. So how much is Ultimate? It's $15 a month, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This all seems super generous. Like 5 extra accounts in the country. That seems incredibly generous when, like, normally, you know, the publishers and everybody are kind of tightening down on access. You know, like I remember when the PlayStation 3 and maybe even like some early in the PlayStation 4, you could use like have 5 different accounts activate on it. Like, and then the publishers basically forced them to get it down to 2, which is kind of how Xbox's DRM works. So like 5.
Well,
so yeah, that's definitely very generous. It's just really, I guess, comes down to pricing, and we know Microsoft.
I suppose Sorry, go on.
Well, we know Microsoft wants everybody on Game Pass, or at least a large amount of people, and I think this would be a good way to maybe try to convince people who are on the fence to maybe even try an Xbox. Like, hey, you get an Xbox, whether or not it's Series S or an X, or like eventually maybe a streaming stick where you could use, your cloud saves, or on your PC, or a smart app, and be like, you can just pay this and you can play all these games, especially if Call of Duty, like this needs to be out before Call of Duty comes out, before Call of Duty hits Game Pass, and before, presumably, like you would want it probably out before Starfield comes out, because that's going to be the big game this fall, and have a bunch of, and I don't know, like I kind of view it as like, that's so cheap. Well, if what, we're talking about here, if they can price it cheap where it's like, where they're already giving away $1, like, hey, get Xbox Game Pass for $1. If they price it, low enough where people are just like, once again, like, whoa, I can get 5 of my friends to do this for this amount of money, and look at all these games we could play. Like, that might convince a lot of people to, like, maybe give Xbox a second look, especially after, what we think is going to be a good E3, because now's the time to show the games.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I mean,
well, let's assume, right? Let's assume that it's around double. I mean, it's sort of a bit different, because there's publisher royalties to consider, which obviously they don't have to consider for Microsoft Office. They don't really have to pay. They don't have to pay any third parties for Microsoft Office. So maybe the business proposition is a little bit different there and stuff like that. But let's just assume it's around double. Let's say it's like $35 or something like that, and it's a really good deal, and it's really, really attractive, and it seems like too good to be true from a pure value perspective, from our perspective. From Microsoft perspective, that's going to lead to a ton of new users that can just report back to their shareholders and be like, look how much it's grown, look at the user acquisition. And like, when you read analysis about Netflix and account sharing, a lot of the companies are like, Netflix has been really nervous to get rid of account sharing because it'll make it look like they're losing users. And that is their key performance indicator. It's not necessarily profits, it's users. It's like how many users are using the service. So from Netflix's perspective, kicking all those account sharing users off the service is going to make them look bad. If they can't convert those users to paying users, and it just looks like they've lost a load of users, that's not going to be good for them. They're going to be like, shareholders are going to be like, oh, Netflix isn't high value. So it gives them a bit of risk, right? So from Microsoft's perspective, from a user acquisition perspective, they can just be like, this is a really good thing because it's getting loads more people used to using Game Pass, and it'll become a habit for a lot of people, and they'll keep using it, and they'll just want to keep it forever and stuff like that. And maybe that's like not true, but that's probably what they expect, is that they can convert people from, agnostic Game Pass people to like full-blown addicted to Game Pass people, which is ultimately what they want here. So yeah, even if it does seem really cheap and too good to be true, I think it's going to be more a user acquisition play, and I think it could be cheaper than we think.
Yeah, I guess it all comes down to price, but it's definitely something that needs to happen. People have been asking for it for a while. I remember when they used to have a family plan for Xbox Live Gold. People did that, and then they got rid of it. I think you made a tweet, and I think even Brad Sams talked about this. Are you expecting more changes to come for Xbox Live Gold?
I would not be surprised if they consolidated the branding of Xbox Live Gold under Game Pass. I think I tweeted it out in a kind of clunky way, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if they consolidate if they consolidated Game Pass, Xbox Live Gold into Game Pass in some way. And obviously they've already done that with Game Pass Ultimate. But I think they'll do it at the lower tier as well, or maybe rebrand it. So like maybe on the base tier of Xbox Game Pass, you also get Xbox Live Gold, basically. And just to sort of merge the user base or something. I don't know. Maybe it'll be the same price. Maybe it'll go up slightly to accommodate for that. But I think most people would just convert. They'll see it as like, oh well, it's a price increase, but I'm also getting all these games. And then Microsoft will be able to say like, well, Game Pass has just gone from, 25 million users to a bajillion million users. So maybe they'll do that at some point. Similarly to how Sony's sort of consolidated all of its services into one brand. I think they'll do that as well eventually. And I think they'll get rid of games with gold because it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I feel like games with gold is hurting the brand more than helping the brand right now. It's so super bad.
Yeah.
Are you with me on that, Ron?
Now, games with gold has been awful ever since Game Pass has come out, so I don't know. But maybe there's a whole bunch of people that aren't on social media that love getting free games every single week and are playing stuff like that. But
yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I think they just need to really get rid of gold, make it so everybody can play multiplayer for free, and move away from all that. But maybe at one point,
it's too much money to do that now. I think.
Face.
But maybe this is how they do it, right? This is how they do it. They merge Game Pass with Xbox Live Gold at the base tier, and they put the price up a little bit. Maybe it costs half as much as it would subscribing to both separately or something, but you'd still cost a little bit more than subscribing just to Game Pass. Maybe they do that way, and then when there's like shitloads of users who've converted to Xbox Game Pass and they're actively using it, they'll look at that and be like, well, these guys actively use Xbox Game Pass. They're probably not going to unsubscribe. And then they drop the paywall for multiplayer, which gives them a really strong differentiator against PlayStation and Nintendo, which obviously you are forced to play. So a lot of people at that point would be like, if all I'm doing on my console is using it for Fortnite, maybe a lot of parents would be like, well, it'd be cheaper over time to just get a Series S, and then maybe they get converted to Game Pass as well, thinking that, they get their games cheaper as well. But I think the age of paying for multiplayer has to go away eventually. It just seems silly in the era where PC and mobile is most dominant. And you don't have to pay to play mobile games online. You don't have to pay to play Fortnite online on PC. It just feels weird and wrong, especially when they're pushing crossplay so much. I mean, what's the excuse? What is the excuse behind me getting a £500 mobile phone and being able to play Fortnite on my phone for free, but I can't do it on my console? That's just weird. Well, you can now, I guess, because they opened that up. But any game, like I could play like premium games online for free on my mobile phone as well. It just seems weird. I don't know.
Yeah, well, if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button. Appreciate it. Face in the super chat says, rumor from Jeff Grubb and Greg Miller says that Sony's making a big acquisition. Do you believe this rumor, and who do you think it can be? I mean, I 100% believe they discussed it yesterday. 100%, like, Sony's going to keep on buying studios. It's a matter of when they make another acquisition, not if they will make another acquisition. And I guess big, I don't know, it depends on who the studio is. For some people, it's not going to be big. For some people, it'll be huge. So, yeah, I 100% expect sometime in the future, who knows when, could be next week, could be 2 months from now. Yeah, Sony's going to acquire somebody. They're in an acquisition spree, just like Microsoft was. And I think Microsoft would be even in a bigger acquisition spree if they didn't jump on Activision. Like, I think they just saw that opportunity with Activision, was like, all right, we got this now, and some of our other plans for other acquisitions can go by the wayside for now, right? It was just one of those once in a lifetime opportunities that opened up, and you had to take it. But yeah, no, I 100% believe there's going to be another Sony acquisition at some point, probably multiple, because that's just kind of how everything. Like, Sony's buying people because they know they're going to need more content. Xbox is buying people because they know they need content. Embracer's buying people. Tencent's buying studios. Like, it's everybody's. There's the rumor that NetEase is buying Quantic Dream. Good luck with them. That seems like a bad purchase, especially after Sony basically pushed them aside, and they had all those, horrible things said about the studio and the people there. So yeah, good luck. They probably needed to sell, otherwise because there was that report that even the new Star Wars game's not going to come out for like another 5 years. So
that is weird.
Who could it be? I don't know. I expect Sony at some point to buy Square Enix. Who knows? Maybe Deviation Games. They're working with them right now on a game. Sony might end up buying them at some point, but who knows? Dan says, Jez, I don't know, Connor is at 96 so far. Yeah, you do say I don't know quite a bit, Jez. I have noticed that, but we all have our vocal fillers. We say
it's a vocal filler. Yes. I need to come up with a new one. I'll just say shrimps instead of I don't know now.
Installation 7 says, you've already talked about PlayStation Plus. No, that's what we're actually going to talk about next is the PlayStation Plus revamp. So this information hit on Tuesday, and we were looking forward to it because I wanted to see how well it would compete with Game Pass, right? Because this was going to be, quote-unquote, their Game Pass competitor. And I find it weird that a lot of people out there, some people out there were trying to present this argument that it's not competing with Game Pass, which is strange to me because they're both subscription services on competing platforms, offer very much similar things. Of course they're competing. I don't know. It's kind of like Netflix competes with Hulu and HBO Max and all these other things. And some of them offer different perks and bonuses for each, but they're still competition. So yes, of course PlayStation Plus is competing with Game Pass. While PlayStation Plus may not have day one games, it's still competing. Someone may subscribe to PlayStation Plus and not subscribe to Game Pass. I mean, come on now. But there's this weird push for people to say, well, it's not competing. It's, it is. It 100% is. And hell, Jason Schreier even said on Reset Era that Sony views it internally as a Game Pass competitor. So, I mean, they're the ones making it. So, anyways, it's not really a surprise because they did exactly what we thought they would do. They combined their most successful subscription service, which is PlayStation Plus, with a subscription service, PlayStation Now, which was a failure. And they basically created 2 extra tiers where they would split the content from PlayStation Now into. So you have the first tier, which remains basically the same as it is now if you're paying $60 a year or $10 a month. It's basically you get cloud saves, which is ridiculous that cloud saves are behind a subscription, but whatever. You get access to multiplayer. You get 2 free games a month. Basically similar to Xbox Live Gold in that regard. $60 a year. You get access to the PlayStation Plus collection, which is actually really good. And then they have, I think the second tier is called PlayStation Essential or PlayStation. I forget what the second tier is called, but it's $15 a month. So it's the same price as Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And you know what? I need to bring up the thing because I know this one has like 400 games into it, but I'm not sure which one has the game streaming. I think is the game streaming the one that's in the higher tier. Let me bring this up. Professional podcast. Hold on 1 second. Let's see here. Hang on with me, Jez. Jez, you should know about this. Didn't you talk about this with Miles? Wasn't your article like? Wasn't your article PlayStation Plus can't compete with Xbox Game Pass or something like that?
Nah. I don't need that hate in my life. If I've written that, I'd have like a million fanboys all over me.
Yeah.
But nah, I didn't look into it too much because, like I say, I don't cover PlayStation. So, but
okay, so
as pertains, go on.
The base tier is called PlayStation Plus Essentials. It's $9 a month or $10 a month or annual price for $60. That's another thing that I hope Xbox will do. Why doesn't Xbox do an annual tier for Game Pass?
That is strange.
Isn't it? Like, because if you want Game Pass, you got to pay for it monthly, or you have to buy like a card, like a 6-month card from Amazon or a 12-month card or whatever. But there's no discount for paying in full for a year. It's just, hey, you're paying $180 if you want Game Pass Ultimate for a year.
You know, if I had to speculate, it's probably because they're trying to work out what causes people to unsubscribe month over month, maybe. What kind of games, maybe, and like they're probably doing it for user research reasons. Why they haven't got it right now, because obviously a lot of emphasis is being put on the month over month quality, and they always announce these are the new games for the month and stuff like that. So I think they're probably doing research, and when they're happy with like their information on it, they probably will start offering an annual thing. But I think that's why they don't do it right now. And also, a lot of people are probably still using their took advantage of that deal to convert Xbox Live Gold, because I've still got like a year of Game Pass left from converting. All
there are a
that
lot
shit
of people
back in
that
the
did
day.
that. I'm just saying, I think a lot more people would obviously, because I even think Jim Ryan said 2/3 of the people that subscribe to PlayStation Plus actually subscribe through the annual tier, which is like $60. I think you get a lot more subscribers if, like, you know, if you were selling Game Pass for $60 a year instead of $120, or for Ultimate for $90 a year instead of $180. You know, maybe that'll come in the future, like you said. So the base tier is renamed.
They do it for Office.
Yeah, maybe it'll come in the future. I was just always curious why they haven't done it yet. So base tier is PS Plus Essentials, which is basically the current PlayStation Plus, $10 a month, $25 for 3 months, $60 for a year. The second tier is PS Plus Extra, includes the same benefits as the previous one, but a library of 400 downloadable PS4 and PS5 games, including Death Stranding, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Mortal Kombat 11, and Returnal. So, okay, and then they said additional titles, including third-party titles, will be announced at a later date, with regular editions planned for the future. And that tier is the one that's competing with Game Pass Ultimate. It's $14.99 a month, $40 a quarter, and $100 a year. And that's so it's the same monthly for PS Plus Extra as Game Pass Ultimate, but because they have the annual thing, it's actually cheaper annually. So because it's $180 for Game Pass Ultimate for a year, and this is $100. So, well, you know, the one thing about competition I'll say is it helps, right? Because before Game Pass, PlayStation Now was just all streaming. And then Game Pass came around, and suddenly PlayStation Now was like, oh, these games are downloadable. So it helped the service, which in turn helped the consumers, right? So now you have Sony doing this, trying to make their service better by having more features and more games to compete with Game Pass. And because they're offering an annual plan, some people might look into this, well, why is Sony offering $100 for their second tier? Why can't we get an annual plan on Xbox? So maybe because of the competition, that will force Xbox to go back and add an annual tier. So that's why the competition's good in this case.
Are you saying I should write an article about it?
You should. I think that's an interesting question to have. Why isn't there, like most subscriptions, I don't know, like literally every subscription service out there offers a discount if you subscribe for a full year. I can't think of one that doesn't except for Game Pass Ultimate. So
yeah, like I say, even Office does. Like I pay Office annually because I use it a lot. Actually, I don't even use it a lot. Well, I suppose I use OneDrive storage a lot. Okay, yeah, I do use it a lot. But yeah, Office has it. Nintendo's Family Pass has an annual subscription too, and so does the Pokemon Premium Pass, which I have.
Right.
Do you have that subscription, Rand?
I don't have that
Pokemon
one.
Home.
I don't.
No. Cloud storage for your Pokemon. No, not interested.
I can't believe Pokemon got its own subscription service. Maybe that's what led to Grand Theft Auto finally getting their own subscription service, right? Because that was announced last week. You would figure they would have done that way before, right? Like, why are they just doing it now?
Yeah, maybe.
So the third tier is called PlayStation Plus Premium. So it includes the the benefits we mentioned, right? The extra 400 games, but now you get an extra 340 additional games, including PS3 titles available via cloud streaming. So sorry, no back compat for the PS3. And a catalog of classic games available in both streaming and download options from the original PlayStation, the PS2, and PSP generations. Premium will also offer cloud streaming access for original PlayStation, PS2, PSP, and PS4 games offered in the extra and premium tiers in markets where PlayStation Now is available. And also, premium tier will include time-limited game trials where you can try games out before you buy them. And this tier costs $18 a month, $50 a quarter, or $120 a year. So yes, what do you think about their revamp and how it competes with Xbox Game Pass, Jez?
Well, it's kind of hard to say without seeing the library.
You want to see the library? Go look at the library PlayStation Now, and you can pretty much see the library.
But does that include the third-party games for PlayStation 5 and stuff?
Well, I mean, PlayStation Now, like right now, has like 800 games in it. So like, they're just basically going to take that library and split them into two tiers. Obviously, they're going to have more like the older PlayStation games. I mean, they mentioned like God of War and Death Stranding and stuff like that. And they constantly also add new stuff. I'm just saying, if you want to get a sense of what the library is going to look like, take a look at the library of PlayStation Now right now.
Well, if it's like that, then that's not. I don't think that's super exciting, because I think like a lot of the back compat games on PlayStation Now are not that great. A lot of them are just sort of either games that are already available to buy on sort of like ports and stuff, or they're just really lame sort of filler games that no one cares about. I don't know, but I suppose it's subjective to to different people. Maybe some people are really hyped about those games, but I remember looking at it before and thinking, actually, all those games are kind of lame. So I don't know. There weren't games that I had super nostalgia about anyway. Not like a lot of the games that Microsoft put in. When they bought like Max Payne to backwards compatibility, I was like, oh yeah, man, I can't believe they actually did that. But even then, I never actually went and fully finished replaying them again. I played Max Payne for about 3 or 4 hours or something, and then I never went back through it. So maybe there's something about Jim Ryan when he says people don't want to play old games. I don't know. But I don't know. A lot of that stuff isn't. A lot of the I'm looking at it now. Like, it's not that exciting, the backwards compatibility stuff. What would be more exciting is like some of the games you mentioned, like Death Stranding, and sort of a vault of all their sort of more popular games. But at the same time, like, as someone who doesn't have a PlayStation, I'd be most interested in the cloud stuff. Last time I used PlayStation Now, it was also very clearly behind xCloud, Stadia, and GeForce Now. And it's hard to sort of, when I first played PlayStation Now, I was like, oh, this is playable. Like, I played God of War on PlayStation Now, and I thought it was pretty good. But after like the way xCloud is now, it's sort of like, it's just apparent how big the gap is between PlayStation Now and more advanced services. Maybe it'll improve over time, and I'm sure it will. But it's not really something I find super attractive at the moment. And also, there's the issue of day one games. You know, the knowledge that I'll get Starfield day one and don't have to buy it and stuff like that. That's sort of become habitual for me personally. And I just kind of expect that from these kind of services now. And the fact that it's not there for Sony is kind of like, I don't know. It's like, how serious do they want to be about this service? You know, how long would I have to wait to get some of these games? Like, they're banking on me having FOMO to buy like God of War, Ragnarok, and stuff like that. Whereas Microsoft's just being like, you know, this is our service. You get all this stuff up front. I don't know. Just that aspect of it just doesn't make it seem super exciting to me. But again, I'm not a PlayStation owner. And I think the fact that it's consolidated is a good thing. And the fact that it's, you know, it's cheaper to buy annually is the fair thing too. You know, it's pretty good. But is it you know, people say like it's not a direct Game Pass competitor. I actually agree with that. I agree with that to some degree. And I know you don't, and I know you're like, yeah, they are competing because, you choose to pay for one or the other. But a lot of people won't. They'll just pay for both because maybe they want to play online on both and stuff like that. Like my motivation for Game Pass is very different to what my motivation would be for PlayStation Plus. PlayStation Plus, it'd just be like, yeah, well, maybe I want the online multiplayer, maybe, and like the library's not that exciting because it is all old games, So it's sort of a different sort of value proposition. Whereas Game Pass is almost like it's almost essential. Like Game Pass has almost become essential. If you're an active player of Xbox exclusives, Game Pass is essential, and it'll become even more essential over time. If we start getting like Call of Duty in there and Diablo in there and Overwatch in there and all these big, massive Bethesda games and all these other games and just tons and tons of stuff, Game Pass is essential. But I don't feel like PlayStation Plus is essential, even to a PlayStation owner right now. It's more like EA Play, and I don't think EA Play is essential. I've never been a subscriber to EA Play. Never thought EA Play was vaguely essential. And even though EA plays in like Game Pass Ultimate, I don't think I've ever really used it, because if I want to play an EA game, I buy it at launch. I don't use the EA Vault because it's all old games. So yeah, that's where I kind of stand on it. I think it'd be more exciting if they were committed to day and date games. I think it'd be more exciting if it like, I don't know, had some more kind of enticing backwards compatible games. But a lot of that stuff's licensing. A lot of that stuff's source code that's gone. Like, I suppose the downside of PlayStation 1 is that it's so damn old that a lot of these games are just lost in the ether now, and they can't get a lot of license for them. A lot of the classic PlayStation 1 games that I would want to play are not there. A lot of the PS2 games I want to play aren't there. So, I don't know. Personally, for me, it's not that interesting, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's good the way they've consolidated, but I don't think it's a big threat or a big scary sort of like, oh my god, Game Pass is done now, everyone's going to switch platform for this service. No one's going to switch platform for this service.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're going for the quantity play, right? Where they're like, hey, 700 extra games, when Xbox is very much like 100. Because as we talked about before, there's that psychological thing where you have too many and you can't decide, right? So PlayStation's going for the quantity where it's like, oh, you can subscribe and you have 800 games you can choose from to play. Of course, the vast majority of those games aren't going to be very good.
It's almost like they don't want people to use it. Like, it's almost like
it's weird because
they want to like.
I think they said like the most hardcore fans, it's like, okay, well, not everybody cares for back and pat, so we're going to put back and pat games in the highest tier, and only like the super hardcore will like go for that. And it's like the idea of like paying for limited time demos is odd to me as well, right? It's like, oh, so now I have to pay this amount.
Yeah, Play.
Like, it's just odd, especially for that amount. Like, you would think maybe like limited time demos would be on a lower tier. I do think it's good that they basically consolidated as one service that does great into the other service that was a failure. And it offers, I wouldn't say it offers more value, but like I think it offers more convenience for people who just want like a large collection of games to play, so they like subscribe. But what I've always said is one of the reasons I felt PlayStation Now didn't take off was because it didn't have the content that people want. So, and what I mean by that is, with gaming, people want new games. They don't want old titles, and they don't want like back and pat, and that's what mostly PlayStation Now was. So I kind of view this PlayStation Plus revamp as Sony setting the stage and consolidating the services, and just like they're doing with PC, it's going to basically be a slow approach for them adding games day one, right? Because I think they're going to get the data.
You think they'll do it eventually?
100% they're going to do it eventually. 100%. Because, okay, and I guess we need to bring up like Jim Ryan's quotes, because I remember when this interview hit, you DM'd me. He was like, "Is this an attack against Xbox?" Because he was like, Jim Ryan says, "We feel that we're in a good virtuous cycle with the studios." Like, a virtuous cycle. Like, okay, whatever, Jim. What does that even mean? But he goes, "Where the investment delivers success, which enables yet more investment, which delivers yet more success. We like that cycle, and we think gamers like that cycle. In terms of putting our own games in this service or any of our services upon their release, as you well know, this is not a road that we've gone down in the past, and it's not a road that we're going to go down with this new service. We feel if we were to do that with the games that we make at PlayStation Studios, that virtuous cycle would be broken. The level of investment that we need to make in our studios would not be possible, and we think the knock-on effect of the quality of games that we make would not be something that gamers want." Right? To me, that just reads like PR. That just reads like the reason That just reads like the reason he needs to give to someone asking about why your games aren't in a subscription service. And it's an easy answer to give, too, because it's basically kind of throws your competitor under the bus a little bit by being like, well, our games are super quality. And everybody loves our games because they are quality. And you know what? We feel if we were putting our games day one in a subscription service, then the quality that our gamers expect from our titles wouldn't be there anymore. And some people start side-eyeing Xbox because they think of like Crackdown 3, they think of Sea of Thieves when it first launched, they think of State of Decay 2, right? They think of some of those titles that weren't very well received, and they're like, yeah, look at Xbox over there. They put their titles in the day one in the game subscription service, and their games suck. They're not quality anymore. Let alone, forget the fact that last year Xbox had the best year ever, according to Metacritic. They were the publisher of the year with the highest average of a publisher ever, right? Like, forget that fact, whatever. But it's easy PR. It reminds me very much of like when Jing came out here and was talking about we believe in generations, because it was the exact opposite of what Xbox was saying. Phil was out there saying like, we're not going to be like, you need to get our system on the day that we want to get their system, and we're going to support older consoles for a little bit longer because we feel that's the right way, right? But then the industry came out and was like, Xbox is taking all the fun away from next generations, right? And Jim Ryan came out and was like, well, we believe in generations. And the Sony fandom and the industry like basically rallied behind them, was like, yeah, Jim, yeah, right? Like, that's the way to go. Like, I'm excited for the PS5 now. You're going to do next-gen exclusives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because it was the opposite of what Xbox was doing. Lo and behold, they weren't doing it. They were doing cross-gen just like Xbox was, but they put themselves in the opposite, like, PR position. So when you're talking about Game Pass versus PlayStation Plus, and if you're not doing that, of course, the first thing you're going to say is, like, yeah, the quality is going to suffer. Because it's the easiest thing to say. It's like, so, and we don't think gamers want that, right? So PlayStation fans see that and they're like, yeah, well, I don't want my quality of my games to suffer, so I'm 100% behind Jim, right? And even when you look at when they talked about PC, originally, when they brought Horizon Zero Dawn to PC, Herman Hulse was like, don't worry, guys, it's just one game. It's not all of our AAA games. It's not going to be all of them. It's just one. Don't get crazy. And then literally, like, it does well. They're making more. Jim Ryan's like, we got the whole slate coming. It's like, yeah, they're taking people, like, slowly, step by step. Because after Jim says this, right, he goes on to talk about, he literally goes on to say, the way the world is changing so very quickly at the moment, nothing is forever. Who would have said even 4 years ago that you would see AAA PlayStation IP being published on PC? We started that last year with Horizon Zero Dawn, then Days Gone, and now God of War, a hugely polished and accomplished PC version of that game. We've had great critical success and great commercial success, and everybody has made their peace with that happening, and it's completely at ease with it. Really? I remember when you guys first announced that, PlayStation fans were furious that they were losing their exclusives to PC. So yeah, sure, everybody has made their peace with it, but you did it exactly the way Xbox should have did the whole DRM strategy from 2013. Xbox tried changing everything immediately, and people were just like, no, we're not having that. And when you did it with the PC games, it was like, okay, just one, but we're going to tell our audience, don't worry, it's not going to be all of them, even though you had planned that it was going to be all of them. But over time, people just come to accept it, and they come to accept that the PlayStation games are going to be on PC. So Jim says everybody's made their peace with it, and they're completely at ease with it, because time heals all wounds, right? Even though there are some PlayStation fans who are still really upset the games are on PC. He goes, I look back 4 years and think nobody would have seen that coming, right? So he goes, so I don't want to cast anything at stone at this stage. All I'm talking to today is the approach we're taking in the short term. The way our publishing model works right now, it doesn't make any sense. But things can change very quickly in the industry, as we all know. I mean, so like he literally talks about the reason they won't do it, and then ends the conversation saying, but like, hey, who knows what the future holds? Because things change really quickly, blah, 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 right? I think what's going to happen is you're going to, like we talked last week about Haven being acquired. Haven's making a live service game. I think if Haven's not free to play, then I think it's going to debut in their subscription service. And just, you know what? You know what Sony could do? They have 3 tiers. So what I see happening is that third tier doesn't really seem that impressive. Like, oh my God, $18 a month, $120 a year for demos and back compat and cloud streaming. It's not really a good tier. However, you could change that tier to include day one games. So if you wanted to play Sony games day one, those games would appear in the third tier. And then you could upsell everybody who's subscribing for $60 a year to now subscribing to $120 a year. So they're essentially paying double. Because when you look at like, and even Jim Ryan talked about like he views the future of gaming as live service titles and not subscription services, even though Phil has never talked about how he views Game Pass as like the future of the industry, right? He's been very vocal about that, about how it's just one aspect of the business of Xbox. But when you talk about games as a service, people right now have it in their heads that they don't want to pay for multiplayer games. Multiplayer games should be free. And that's one of the reasons why Halo Infinite is free. Even though Halo Infinite has kind of stumbled with the whole live service thing. So, personally, I think if you're launching a live service multiplayer game, you either need to be free to play so you can get as many people as possible, or you need to be a part of some subscription service. So, like, to me, Deviation Games multiplayer game that they're making, or Haven's multiplayer game that they're making, either those games are free to play, or in my opinion, those games are going to launch in a subscription service, because you're not going to be able to get the traction you need from a full retail product against all the current huge games that are free to play that everybody enjoys. You're just not gonna be able to crack that market. So Jim's leaving the wiggle room open to being like, you know what, the quality, it'll go down if we do this. But then at the same time, he's saying, but who knows how the future, what's going to happen. Like, I still firmly believe that they're going to put a lot of their games, especially live service ones, in a subscription. Will they ever put like God of War 27 in a subscription service that's strictly single player? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they would if they could essentially charge you $20 a month for it, and it just so happens they have an extra tier for that. So, yeah, that's kind of my viewpoint on all that stuff. Like, I think the whole quality thing is just good PR for him. It kind of puts him opposite of what Xbox, because a lot of people view Xbox as like their games aren't quality, and it rallies around, and their fans rally around it, being like, yeah, we want quality, but at the same time, he leaves himself an open, saying like, I don't know what the future's going to hold. So, and they have three tiers. So I think at some point they're going to put their, I think at some point they're 100% going to do it with a game. I think they need to see the data for it, and they'll put it in that third tier and see how many people then subscribe to that third tier. Because I don't know, I kind of view it as ridiculous that you couldn't, by putting a game in a subscription service, that suddenly the game's going to suffer for it. Like, I really disagree, but I don't run the business, so that's my thoughts on it. I'm sorry I rambled for a little bit on that, but
no, it's interesting.
Am I crazy, Jez?
I think you're right about most of it. No, I think you're right. I think like a lot of it is PR and just sort of managing the idea that they don't want to admit that Xbox's model is the right model. They don't want to admit that, Horizon would have remained in the news cycle more if they launched it into PC. Because
Yep.
I genuinely believe Elden Ring launching into PC absolutely destroyed the buzz around Horizon purely because it wasn't on PC. It wasn't because Horizon was bad. It was because it didn't launch on PC unless people had access to it. The sheer volume of memes and talking points and things people were sharing about Elden Ring is because it was on every platform. And Horizon was only available to one platform, and when no one could really talk about it and discuss it.
Technically, two: PS4 and PS5.
Well, yeah, okay, still.
But yeah,
It's
no,
all,
I
like, one
100% agree
platform,
with you. I think, yeah, if Horizon launched on PC day one, it wouldn't hurt anything. Only would have helped, But then again,
Yeah, it
like,
would've helped.
did anybody expect Elden Ring to be the juggernaut that it was? No, but I mean, it sure did seem like Horizon Forbidden West came one week and then was gone the next week, and you never heard about it again. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
for Guerrilla and Sony, but yeah. Somebody look at chat again, because I wasn't even looking at chat when I was talking, because sometimes I look at chat and I lose my train of thought, and I had my thoughts going there. Dean Garner in the super chat, he says, "Hey Xbox 2, love what you guys do. Now with Elden Ring being such a hit with everyone, are you worried what it's going to do to the industry? I love Elden Ring, but I play games for the story, so I don't mind a little direction." I don't think it'll do much to I mean, it created its own genre that a lot of companies have made games in, the Souls genre, but I don't really see it having that big of an effect. Like, it already created a new genre with Dark Souls. I can't, so I don't. No, I don't really see it having that big of effect. Some people will try to figure out like the secret to Elden Ring and why it sold so well, but I don't think it'll have that big of an effect.
It does seem like there's some people concerned that everything's suddenly going to become Souls-like. I don't think that's going to happen. I think some of the things they will take away from Elden Ring is that world building's probably more important than Hollywood cinematics. Hopefully they'll take that away from it. And also they'll take away things like, having a variety of unique combat mechanics and, because you can... Elden Ring sort of has a Skyrim quality, and a lot of open world games just don't have this quality. Like, over the years, they've forgotten why Skyrim was so popular and still is so popular. It's because you can basically go anywhere and do anything, and you can be anyone. You can be a werewolf, you can be a vampire, you can use two weapons, you can use one weapon, you can use no weapons, you can be a sorcerer, you can be a half sorcerer or a battle mage or whatever. There's just infinite possibilities in Skyrim, and Elden Ring has that quality. I think it's just a lot of other games have forgotten that's what open world RPGs are supposed to be like. Like, they just don't give you anywhere near as many options. And I think that's part of why it's so popular. Part of why it gets so many memes is because there's so many different ways to play it. And it's like every 30 seconds there's something new, there's something exciting, there's something unique in Elden Ring. Like, at least for the first third of the game, like, you're constantly seeing new monsters, and yeah, they start reusing a lot of the enemies towards the end and the middle. But at least in the first third of the game, it's like there's just something new constantly, whether it's a weapon, whether it's an NPC, whether it's something blah blah blah. But I played like 40 hours of Far Cry 6, and I felt like I'd seen the whole game within like the first hour. It was just so bland, so empty, so boring. And I don't want to turn this into another podcast hating on Ubisoft, although like I easily could, because I'm just really sick of their games. But that it's not the difficulty, and it's not the difficulty or the delivery of the story that makes Elden Ring so special. It's the freedom and variety that makes it so special. And I hope that if AAA game devs do take something away from it, it's that, and not the fact that everything needs to be a Souls-like with the sort of vague Miyazaki style storytelling, because they don't. Like, you can have like a more traditional storytelling style, but these games already existed. Like, and it's literally Skyrim. It's literally, the Bethesda RPGs have the same qualities without being a Souls-like. you know. But for some reason, the industry forgot that. They stopped looking at Skyrim for some reason. Maybe because it's old, but there's a reason Skyrim sells every year, and there's a reason why it's one of the best-selling games of all time. It's a reason why they keep re-releasing it. It's because there's just nothing else like it out there until Elden Ring came around. And I really do think Elden Ring carries that torch more so than a lot of these other open world games, like your Ubisoft open world games and stuff like that. I think a lot of these devs are they're just sort of, I don't know, they're just sort of doing the bare minimum. It feels like, you know, going down a checklist of what they think should be in a game instead of showing us something new and trying to come up with new mechanics and stuff. Like, I can't remember the last time I was surprised by a Ubisoft game. Like, I just can't remember. I literally cannot remember. It's probably the Division 1, you know. And like the first time I went into the Dark Zone, and you know, it was really tense, like extracting stuff from the Dark Zone in the original Division.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was unbalanced as hell. And like, you know, you had your twinks with the crazy sniper rifles that were overpowered and broken and stuff. But you know, there's that kind of stuff in Elden Ring as well. There's like totally broken abilities in Elden Ring too. So, you know, it's that kind of chaos that for whatever reason Ubisoft seem almost scared to do. I don't know why. They had a really great formula with Division 1 and they squandered it. They made a sequel that was underbaked and then they abandoned it and then they unabandoned it. Did you see this week they just announced like a bunch of stuff for Division 2 after cancelling the game and then uncancelling the game? Ubisoft just feels directionless right now. Yeah, man, I'm hating on Ubisoft again.
Yeah, this is Ubisoft. Once again on the podcast, hate. Christopher Marlowe in the Super Chat says, this is a bit late, but PCIe 5.0 DDR5 PCs are coming around now. Could drastically increase speed for minimal cost in 2 years. So
nice.
I'm assuming he's talking about maybe like the mid-gen refresh we were speculating on.
Yeah, maybe.
Humdrum says, question on Undead Labs and State of Decay 3. Has Jez heard anything regarding Fable at E3? I think we talked about that, and you said no. Gameplay.
No, Fred, no.
Avowed is basically locked in, right? We both think Avowed is basically locked in, yes. Hellblade 2. I mean, Hellblade was just at the Game Awards. Would we see it again? Maybe. I guess it depends on its release date. And he says, great show. So, yeah, since you brought it up, there was an article about Undead Labs and State of Decay from Kotaku that Jeff Strain like kind of came out the day before and was like, they're writing an article and here's my answers, because it almost seemed like maybe it was going to be a hit piece on him. And it kind of was, because it kind of made it sound like he took the money from Microsoft and kind of just effed off and just hired somebody that was bad or whatever. So what do you think? What do you think about that whole article, and do you know anything going on in Undead Labs?
Well, I actually spoke to some people who are like familiar with Jeff Strain, and some people thought it was unfair to him. Apparently he was going through a lot around the time of that purchase, and you know, was struggling with a lot of stuff. And I think he wrote in his own piece that he'd been like an absentee father or something along those lines, and he sort of abandoned the studio. But it sounds like he was going through a lot of stuff, and I don't really know the details, but it doesn't seem like everything was smooth sailing there. And like a lot of the discussion around Undead Labs that has come out since has sort of revolved around, did they need more of a heavy hand from Microsoft to sort of get on their feet and become mature and stuff like that? I don't know. So it's hard to say, because with reports like this, you know, you get like a glimpse of the full picture. You get like, I think there was 12 sources on this. But you know, how many other people work at the studio and what are their perspectives, you know? And I think the piece talked about how Microsoft got more involved and they did interviews with the staff to get their feedback on what the studio needed to do to improve. And I think it even closed by saying that a lot of people feel like the studio is on a good path now, but that it hadn't been for a while. And you know, hopefully it is on a good path now. But again, it's just sort of hard to comment, because I feel like I still don't have a full picture of what was going on there. in like a full, in a way that I could feel like I could honestly comment about it. Like there's a huge rush in the media to sort of make these kind of articles right now, and I haven't done one myself, and I've spoken to devs all the time from all sorts of different studios, and a lot of sometimes they come to me because they want to contradict some of the stories that get put out there, and it makes me feel weird because I'm like, who do you believe? What perspective is accurate? Everyone has a different perspective on these things, and that's why I don't feel comfortable making these kind of stories, because I feel like I could never get a full picture of everything, because I wouldn't be able to speak to literally everyone at a studio. But it does sound like some people felt wronged, or felt like the studio was immature, and that Microsoft hadn't been as hands-on as they could have, should have been. But hopefully that changes now, and I guess time will tell when we get the release of State of Decay 3.
It was they were like 60 people. They were going from AA to AAA, so I think they've hired another 70. So like they doubled their studio size or something. And there's a bunch of sexism or bullying that was going on. And a lot of people were like, this is another example of supposedly Microsoft being hands-off. Like, I know that a lot of people in the Xbox One era were like, Microsoft is too hands-on with their studios. They need to let them create. And all these stories we get from, like, the initiative to this, it's like, Microsoft is, like, hands-off. And maybe they shouldn't have been in this case, because I guess there was a bad apple, which I think they then pushed out. But like you said, it seems like the studio's in a better shape now. It does put
That's
out...
the thing. It's like Microsoft can't win, because like they get criticized for being too hands on, and now they get criticized for being too hands off. And it's they did just win an award for being voted the #1 corporate workplace in America, or whatever. So how do you gauge that? Because like obviously Microsoft has a lot of policies in place to sort of prevent this stuff, because they know how bad it can hurt PR. Sony had its own story last week, I want to say, that was sort of in this vein about toxic workplace culture. Apple's had it as well, although Apple seems to be completely immune to negative press for whatever reason. And obviously we know about the Activision Blizzard stuff, but none of the stuff that's come out about Microsoft seemed to be on the sort of the same level of egregiousness that Activision Blizzard was.
So some people say that this presents a problem for Xbox. Like there's a perception problem that they don't know how to run their studios. Like you look at 343 and what they're going through right now, trying to get content out for the live service angle. A lot of people would say that 343 is being mismanaged. Rare with the problems with Everwild being rebooted. The initiative with their problems trying to get Perfect Dark up and half the studio leaving and then hiring Crystal Dynamics. Mojang, which we'll talk about here in a second, like there's this kind of agenda, or at least a story forming that Xbox doesn't know what they're doing, which only is going to be basically settled once the games come out and their quality is out there. Like State of Decay 3, people are going to want to see improvements, because State of Decay 2 was very much like State of Decay 1.5, so people want to see a big jump, and the game's got to be great. Everwild, like people will forget that Everwild was rebooted if it comes out and is really good, right? People a year from now, if Halo Infinite has a ton of content, people will forget like the first 5 months of the game there was nothing, right? So it's just a matter of you need to put up and shut up, essentially. So I don't know. It does seem like there's a lot more negative articles coming out. Then there was the one we talked about WCCF Tech about Playground. So I would rather have Microsoft be as hands-off as possible and only get involved when stuff like this happens, because I'd like developers to be as creative as possible. So I don't really that's why I've always kind of been like, I personally would like Coalition to make something other than Gears, because I feel like maybe their creativity's been being diminished, or they're being like forced to work on Gears. But then what do I know? Maybe the studio wants to work on Gears. But I love the idea of like Xbox and Matt Booty and Phil being like, make what you want. We're not going to force you to make anything you don't want to. But then, when you have situations that come up where you have a bad apple and there's screwing stuff up and there's sexism and there's all this sort of stuff, like, then I do think Microsoft needs to step in with a firm hand and get rid of that person. But when it comes to creative directions, I think they should. I like the idea of them remaining like, just kind of like, we'll fund you, just make what you want and just make it good. And that's all I've really wanted. But reprobate.
Yeah, I think that's basically how it is right now. They have like HR processes in place where you can report grievances and sort of like, if you do have an issue with a particular member of staff, I think you can like sort of kickstart some of those processes to, independently ascertain if there has been some kind of, I don't know, abuse, shall we say?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just hope that they can find a good balance between ultimately balancing that sort of creativity with a hands-on touch and making sure that deadlines are met, and also that they feel like they can offer some critical feedback, because I think, especially if you're a new dev, maybe critical feedback's important. I mean, I can only speak from a blogger's perspective, but when I first started blogging on Windows Central, Dan Rubino gave me some pretty stern feedback, shall we say, about my first articles when I first signed up. But it helped me grow as a dev. It didn't do not grow as a writer. It didn't, but it was framed in such a way that it, wasn't bullying or anything. But I don't know. People are hard, and to deal with sometimes.
And it looks like the Series X is even available at the Microsoft Store right now too.
Wow.
Although
that's crazy.
Oh, they want you to a bundle.
Oh, it's a bundle.
But I mean, the systems are in. That's weird. They must have had like a massive restock of Series X's, huh?
Yeah, they must have done. Yeah.
Reprobate says, glad to hear my favorite podcast is live. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Whittia says, no first party day and date, but can you see PlayStation Plus third party day and date? I mean, they just did that with Shadow Warrior 3, and I'm sure they'll probably spend some money to try to get some bigger name games into their second tier at least. So people, because to me almost it seems like this whole PlayStation Plus revamp, outside of consolidating a horrible service into a good one, is about the idea of essentially getting your audience to pay more. Like, you have all these people paying $60 a year. Well, let's now try to get them to pay $100 a year, right? That's what is that in the front. This thing I don't think will get new subscribers. I think what this is going to do for Sony is it's going to get a lot of these subscribers they already have to actually pay more. And then when I personally think they'll start doing day one games into that third tier, that's when you'll start getting the new subscribers. But I think this one's mainly just going to be about getting existing subscribers to pay more so they can have more revenue, right? Right, Jez? And kind of how it looks like.
Yeah, I think so. They're probably like trying to expand their cloud platform to some degree. I don't actually know who provides Sony's cloud or if they've got their own cloud and stuff like that. I don't actually know off the top of my head. But investing in cloud services is obviously going to be paramount for them if they are going to go down the service game route. I think every studio and every publisher kind of needs its service game to give them that guaranteed ongoing revenue now. But I think increasingly a lot of studios are realizing you've got to have a balance. I don't think having every game you make as a service is a good idea, because you create fatigue around that specific kind of game. You also create this sort of like effect where you're cannibalizing your own games. Like, I don't know, like if EA like EA's terrible battle royale mode for Battlefield is kind of like, are you trying to steal gamers from Apex Legends? It's just weird. It's like, why try and cannibalize your own audience?
Or when
So,
EA
uh,
launched Titanfall 2, like right after or before Battlefield 1, and it was just like, huh? Why are you doing that?
yeah, it's so weird.
Well, that's the thing
It's almost as if they
about
did that
live service
tactically or
games
something.
is like not on like they have to be on every platform as possible. So like Haven's game and Deviation Games' game, like that's gonna have to be day one on PC as well. Like you won't be able to
Yeah,
like sustain that with just a $70 PlayStation 5 release, and have
yeah,
like an active community that's buying microtransactions and stuff. Like that stuff needs to be on PC as well. And honestly, that stuff probably needs to be free or in a subscription
yeah.
service, because like the whole point of that is to get people to get as many people as possible, so you can have as many people possible spending money on microtransactions and cosmetics. So like we know, I mean, Sony themselves said we got 10 live service games coming by 2026. You know, I think we know that Sony's working on Last of Us 2 factions. I guess they have multiple ways they could go about that. Do you bundle that into a Last of Us Part 2 like upgrade kind of thing, or do you put Last of Us Part 2 factions as a free to play mode and then put it on PC? Like that would be the way I would do it, but that's also something Sony hasn't done yet. Like sure, they're putting their games on PC now, but they haven't done a day one PC release yet. And I think they're just slowly leading people in that direction. They're not going to do it right away, but they're just getting people to used to the idea of their games being on PC, and then they're going to get used to the idea of their games in a subscription service. So,
And also launching day one on PC.
yeah, that too. Space Dovikin says they basically took the narrative from hardcore PlayStation fans on Twitter. Let's see what else we got here. Scrolling through chat right now. Yep. So, Jez, what's going on with Minecraft? They put out an update for the game in like the Minecraft preview that had the long-awaited ray tracing for Series X and S consoles. And then they tweeted out being like, oops, our bad, this wasn't supposed to be here, lol. And it was gone. What is up with Minecraft?
Yeah. This kind of feeds into the discussion we were having about how hands-on should Microsoft be with some of its studios, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Because, like, so it's funny because one of my colleagues, Zachary Body, who's an awesome chap, he wrote an article, like, last year about whether or not Microsoft should be more involved with what Mojang does. Because Mojang still, despite how much money Minecraft makes, and it makes a ton of money, they treat the studio like they're an indie studio. And the cadence of updates for Minecraft is also indie studio like. You know, the updates for Minecraft aren't that big. It doesn't feel like, and oftentimes I feel like mods for Minecraft are often bigger, and they're sort of being made for like much less money that's flowing through that game. It kind of feels like the fans of Minecraft deserve a bit more, you know. So like when we finally start seeing these like ray tracing stuff for Minecraft, and then they're like, oh, sorry, this is, we have no plans to actually implement this. It's just a prototype. That to me just feels like total bullshit. It's like, are you seriously telling me that your flagship game, bigger than Halo, doesn't use your flagship console's biggest selling point feature, which is its power ultimately? It just feels like total bullshit to me.
You know, they never supported it on the One X. There wasn't like a Minecraft One X version either, so
no, there wasn't.
They never supported any Xbox stuff.
It's really strange. It's really weird, and I don't know why Microsoft lets them get away with it. You know, I feel like either they're suffering from lack of investment. Maybe Microsoft's like using the funds from Minecraft to fund everything else. Maybe, I don't know. But it just doesn't feel like Minecraft fans are getting the sort of quality, the level of service that they honestly deserve, you know, given how big this franchise is. And that whole debacle with the ray tracing felt like a slap in the face, because everyone's been asking for the ray tracing in the console version since they announced it themselves for the Super Duper graphics pack. They did a whole damn musical about the Super Duper graphics pack. You know, maybe instead of releasing these massive marketing trailers for the Super Duper graphics pack, maybe you should have hired more devs to actually make it first. You know, to me, that just feels like a slap in the face, especially when I think about how much they spent on the marketing for that thing that never even released. You know, how arrogant is that? That you're going to put together a massive marketing campaign for like that and then not even bother to make the product. It just feels like bullshit to me. And this is just another piece of the bullshit pie that is modern Minecraft, I think.
What E3 was it where they wasn't it like where they showed off the Minecraft Super Duper thing where it was like
was it E3 or was it Minecon?
I want to say it was at E3, but I forget which one. But then that never came out and it was canceled. Like, this is odd.
Yeah, I was just talking about that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't play Minecraft, so like I'm not personally like it's like not whatever, but it's just it really does seem like Mojang is just they're not even part of Xbox. They're just in their own universe and they can do whatever they want. And it support Xbox? Like, what do you mean? Make a Minecraft version for One X that uses the extra power? Pfft. Put RayTracing in the Series X? Pfft. We ain't got time for that. Like, it really does seem like they just like do whatever they feel like. Well,
yeah,
and maybe they deserve it. The biggest game ever, right? So, I don't know.
I think like fans deserve more out of Minecraft. It's absurd that it's the biggest franchise on earth and it's supported the way it is, and Xbox fans are treated like second-class citizens, you know, by Microsoft's own studio. Like, why even buy it? You know, it's just weird to me. But I don't know. Maybe there's more to it. I might write about that next week because I think it is just
Stodgy Caesar says
now.
they literally showed Minecraft ray tracing running on the Series X in a Digital Foundry event in March of 2020.
Oh yeah, they did. That was for man, what are they like? It just feels like it's a horrible way to treat your audience, if nothing else. You know, if you're gonna like tease this shit, talk about super duper graphics pack, spend the marketing millions on a stupid musical, and then not release it, and then tease ray tracing again in some Digital Foundry video, and then release it by accident as a prototype, and then backtrack like that. It's a bullshit way to treat fans, and I ain't gonna stand for it, man. I ain't gonna stand for it. I'm gonna write an article about it next week.
Yeah, should definitely write an article about it. James Riggs says, "I am Melina, Blade of Mikela." Oh, that's such a great boss fight. Tough, hardest boss fight in the game. Felt like a Sekiro. You don't even know. Like, you were all about Elden Ring this year, and I ended up beating it before you, and you still haven't beaten it yet.
Yeah, I know. I got Blizzard had to go and release a big patch for World of Warcraft.
Yeah, whatever. It just goes to show you just don't care that much about From Software and their games. we know where
I've
you're
only played Dark Souls.
We know where your
Dark
true
Souls the only one
lives.
I play.
You know.
Yeah, it's Blizzard. It's always Blizzard.
Jez, how you feeling this week about the Activision Blizzard stuff? Because 4 senators wrote to the FTC saying they're deeply concerned about the Activision Xbox merger. And I even saw some yesterday where like where Activision lifted their like the employees have to come back to work, but then they lifted the vaccine mandate or whatever. So, and I think I just saw an article go up on Windows Central that said the employees are staging a walkout in protest. What's going on with the Activision?
Activision's a bloody mess, isn't it? I don't know. Activision's a weird in a weird place right now. They're sort of like they're in this sort of holding pattern where they don't have to listen to shareholders anymore because they think they're getting bought. But at the same time, they still have to make money and they still have to do their job. So Bobby Kotick's still trying to build revenue for the company, and you know if the deal falls through for whatever reason, like he's going to be there, you know, sort of managing the company still. And I don't know what Bobby Kotick's motivated by. I really don't, because if I was as rich as him, I wouldn't be working, mate. I'd be in a bunker playing World of Warcraft all day. I wouldn't be working for shit. So I don't know what motivates him right now. Suffice to say that he's not doing a particularly great job at managing the studios and managing their expectations. I have no idea what the COVID situation is like in America, so you know I can't comment on whether or not that's fair enough to try and force people back into the office or not. Personally, if like I haven't worked in an office for about 10 years, so the idea of ever working in an office again is terrifying to me for any reason. let alone being infected with COVID. So I think if the technology's there for remote working, why not bloody well use it? It's because you don't trust your own staff to work or something. I don't know. That's a whole nother discussion, but I do think like this Activision Blizzard deal is going to be the fight of Microsoft's life. I think they knew it was going to be a big deal and a hard slog, which is why they put so much money up. They put so much money up because they wanted to be like, we need to pay so much money that they can't stop this happening. Because imagine if you're an Activision shareholder and you've seen the share price go down and down and down with no hopes of recovering because of how the studio's been under the leadership of Kotick. Kotick won't leave because he doesn't have to, and they can't get rid of him for whatever reason because he controls the board with an iron fist. And they can't get rid of him. And the only way you can get any value out of your investment is this Xbox deal. This is the only way you can get it, you know? So Microsoft were like, yeah, we'll throw everything we've got at this to make this happen, because the FTC and the government would be like, well, this is, they're paying a huge premium for this effectively dying company right now. Like, in what universe is it okay for us to block this? But, there's a lot of people who are going to want their wheels greased, I think, about this. A lot of politicians who are looking to make their name may be blocking this, or like finding out some reason why this can't go through, even though they're like, let Disney and Warner Brothers do these kind of deals all the time, and like if it was an oil company, there'd be no discussions about it, because ultimately a lot of these senators, they benefit from insider trading already, which is sickening. Like if you look at like some of the stock purchases before the Ukraine war, it'll make you sick, because they knew what stocks were going to go up and down before the public did, and they invested here and there before the shares moved based on the war, and a lot of them made 60% gains just before the war broke out. They're all insider trading, they're all scum, and they're all corrupt, all politicians. So, but a lot of them probably aren't invested in games because they're all boomers and they're old and they don't get it. And they're probably like, man, we're not investing in this, so we're gonna prove that we're for the people and block this deal on the grounds of being more competitive and stuff. And there'll probably be motivation to try and stop this deal and stuff, because they're not going to benefit from it. If they were going to benefit from it because they were shareholders in these companies, then they wouldn't stop it, because they're all corrupt. So I think this is going to be it's going to be a tough slog for Microsoft for a load of reasons. You're gonna have these career politicians trying to screw with it to make themselves look good. You're gonna have other politicians like being like, well, where's my cut? Stuff like that. You're gonna have all these other legal problems and these hurdles to jump through, and all kinds of stuff going down. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be tough. But like I say, they have put a lot of money up. And a lot of very rich and powerful people are going to be pissed off. A lot of banks are going to be pissed off if Microsoft blocks this, because a lot of these banks are probably going to be like, well, we're not going to turn a profit if you block this deal, because Activision share price is probably never going to go back up again. Like, they're a company in decline. They're a company faced with incredible competition. They're a company that desperately needs a change in leadership for branding reasons, if nothing else. They need new leadership because they can turn a page on this dark chapter in their history where California sued them and they had to settle because they created an unsafe workplace for women, amongst other things. So it's going to be a huge amount of complexity, but I think if there's anyone that can get it done, it's Microsoft, because they make acquisitions not quite on this scale, but close to this scale. Like, they paid $28 billion for Nuance, I think. They got contracts with the military and the government, and they are the America's Tencent. They are like America's darling company, and they are a military favored provider and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of wheels that are sort of pointing in Microsoft's favor to get this through. But I do think it's not going to be easy. I think there's going to be a lot of stressed acquisition lawyers at Microsoft working on this 24/7. And I think it's going to be really tough. I still think it'll go through in the end. But I think it's going to be an ongoing drama for a long time, And we saw Nvidia's purchase of ARM fell through,
Yeah.
not long ago. So it's not like, and they were putting up tens of billions of dollars as well. But that also created a serious competition question. Like if Nvidia had purchased ARM, they would basically control the entire chip market. It wouldn't be like Intel and AMD or they're sort of competing with them. They wouldn't. ARM is just every smartphone on earth has ARM chips in it, every single one. And then you hand in all of that to Nvidia, who already have a massive, basically control like 80% of the GPU market. It's like that created a monopoly problem, and the EU were really nervous about it because obviously ARM's an EU, well, not anymore, I guess. It used to be an EU company at least, but a lot of there are a lot of employees at ARM in the EU, Ireland, stuff like that. So, but that's the same true with Blizzard. They're gonna have to prove that Microsoft's gonna have to prove that the Blizzard employees in Europe are going to be well treated under Microsoft and better treated, maybe. And the EU will be like, well, is this good for the workers? Hopefully it goes through for us, for Xbox fans, because it's going to be a nightmare catastrophe if it doesn't.
You wanted to go through because you like Blizzard.
I want it to go through because I like Blizzard, but also because I think it gives Microsoft everything that they're missing right now. Gives them a big subscription-based MMO. Like, even though Final Fantasy 14's been dominating the conversation, World of Warcraft's still the most profitable. There's still more subscribers, active subscribers. Like, a lot of people who play Final Fantasy 14, inflating the numbers, don't even subscribe. They just use the free trial or whatever. And also World of Warcraft's got like the microtransaction store built into the game, So World of Warcraft's still massively profitable, and it's more profitable so than Elder Scrolls Online, and it still sells tons of expansions every couple of years. When they release an expansion, it's always like one of the biggest PC releases of the year. So it's still a big deal. They're going to have Diablo 4, which is going to be absolutely massive, and Diablo Immortal is going to be absolutely massive. And also, Rand, speaking of which, we talk about plugging gaps in Microsoft's lineup. Did you see that Age of Empires mobile game debuted at the top of the charts in China?
I did see that, yeah, I did.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that. So like Microsoft's sort of building its sort of mobile empire. This would be the obvious move to make. And I want to see it go through for filling all those gaps, but also selfishly, because I want World of Warcraft to have a bright future under Phil and not under Kotick, who just wants it to be this horrible sort of shallow factory of microtransactions and time gating, padding mechanics and stuff like that, which have destroyed the game, over the years. But I don't know. That's a whole nother discussion. But yeah. Will it go through? I think it will in the end, but it's going to be tough.
It's just I don't know. Like, 4 senators are deeply concerned. It's like, yeah, sure you are, senators. So, Gunstar
senators
in the super chat says
they want to cut.
Yeah, they say I'm deeply concerned as they hold out their hand. Right? Will Microsoft discontinue using the Activision brand and just give all the individual studios their own stage under Microsoft Publishing? No, I think they'll keep the Activision brand similar to how they're keeping the Bethesda brand. I don't think they'll put it under Xbox Game Studios, because Matt Booty be run Xbox Game Studios, and then I forget who's running Bethesda that reports to Phil, and then somebody will run Activision who then reports to Phil. So yeah. But you know what? I think we're approaching 3 hours, so that'd be a good spot to end the show. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Get us up to a little bit over 500 likes before the show ends. We appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, make sure to put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. So, what's the rest of your day looking like, Jez? Because I know normally after this, maybe you get off and go do something. You got anything special you're planning for this April Fool's Day? Gonna go drink more vinegar, maybe, instead of wine?
Nah, I'm just going to sleep, I think. It's late here, man. It's midnight. So I'll probably sleep, and then tomorrow I'm going to research boss tactics for the new World of Warcraft raid.
But when can we expect some of these hard-hitting articles about why there isn't an annual price for Xbox Game Pass and stuff? I want to see that.
Well, I'm supposed to write one editorial a week at least, but maybe I'll do 2 next week.
Well, plus
I was going to write an article next week.
You can combine it about like, hey, PlayStation Plus just did it, and they have a annual thing for their tiers. How come we haven't seen this from Xbox? It'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to write about it. I'm just sort of like, timing, I guess. I don't know if I'll write about it next week. I might write about it the week after. But next week, I'm going to write about should Microsoft ditch the PC app for Xbox and go all in on Battle.net.
I don't really care in that situation because I don't play PC. I don't play anything on PC. So, like, I know people tell me the PC app is bad. So, like, I have no frame of reference for any of that stuff.
Yeah. That's fair enough. But, like, the Battle.net is better than the PC app on Xbox. PC for Xbox, I mean. Like, the PC app for Xbox is really slow. The chat systems are really slow. But Battle.net's super fast, and it's really good. And you can do all kinds of stuff that you can't do with the Xbox app. So, I don't know. I increasingly think they should just,
I wonder, when
skip.
When it comes to the Activision Blizzard thing, like one of the things that, because obviously Xbox isn't going to be a monopoly even with Activision, but one of the things they talk about is maybe like the potential for Game Pass to be a monopoly in the future. I wonder if it helps Microsoft's case now that PlayStation Plus has combined and is now a bona fide game subscription service that has more subscribers than Game Pass, right?
It probably does unwittingly help that case.
Because like Game Pass is at like 25 million, or at least the last reported amount was 25 million. But we know PlayStation Plus is at 48 to 50 million. And now that they have 700 games in this all subscription, now they're a really bona fide game subscription service. So if the idea was, hey, there might be some issues with Game Pass and monopoly there of them controlling it or whatever, but like now PlayStation has their own, and PlayStation actually almost has double the amount of subscribers. So I wonder if that helps out Xbox's case at all. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. But by then, probably we'll see Xbox Live combine into Game Pass anyway at the base tier, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's speculation.
Ulfric Stormcloak says, do you think Project Spark will ever come back? No, I don't think Project Spark will ever come back.
Hyper dead. Dead is dead.
Let's see here. John says, Jez, I saw your tweet about episodic games for Game Pass, and I was wondering if Microsoft could acquire a comic book manga publisher and do episodic games or visual novels based off the IP.
I often wondered if Rebellion would be a good purchase for Microsoft. Because Rebellion owns
Sniper Elite stuff.
Yeah, they make Sniper Elite, and it kind of reminds me of State of Decay in that it's a AA game that is ripe to get to that AAA level. With Microsoft's backing, I feel like Sniper Elite could be their Metal Gear Solid. Because it's a stealth game. It's got sniper in the title, but if you've never played it, it's a stealth game. You can crawl around, stab people. It just needs a bit of help to get it to that next level. And I feel like Microsoft could provide that. But also, they own Judge Dredd, which is one of the most underutilized IPs in history. Why isn't there like more Judge Dredd games? Like the Coalition could make an amazing Judge Dredd game. I feel like on Unreal Engine. So like they get some of their comic book stuff from that. I don't know. And I don't think Rebellion to be that super expensive either. So I don't know. That's just a thought.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got. Face says, do we think God of War Ragnarok will come out this year? That's an interesting question. I right now would say yes. But also at the same time, it's getting really close for like they would have to announce it soon, a date for it, because normally Sony typically announces release dates for their games 4 to 6 months out. It was like 4 months for Ratchet, That game released in June, and they announced a release date in February. Horizon, they announced a release date in August, that it was coming out in February, which is 6 months. So you're in April now. 4 months lead time would give you to August. And I don't know, I have this like feeling like I don't think Sony would go past October. And I definitely don't think they would put God of War in November. Because I mean they probably most likely have the marketing for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. We know they have the marketing for Harry Potter, which probably coming out at that point in time as well. I don't know, is it starting to get like getting close to the time where like God of War needs a release date needs to be announced for it, or can they just be like, you know what, we're gonna hold it for next year and have it release April of next year when we actually have consoles to sell? Because more than likely PlayStation going to sell all their consoles that they ship, so do they need God of War this year? I don't know. I guess we'll see. I mean, unless they pull like a fast one, they're like God of War comes out in 2 months or something, but you figure they would want to give some lead up to it, and like normally it's 4 months, so I mean 4 months from now is August, and so like maybe if they announce it in May, you could see it coming out in like September or something. I guess we're getting close on that, so we'll wait and see. Maybe I don't know. That's a good question, Face. No idea what Sony's end of the year looks like. We only know that God of War is supposed to come, but maybe it's not. I don't know. East Coast says, where's Matt Booty? We now see Undead Labs had problems. It's good that they're hands off, but not to have somewhat of a word on these studios is honestly worrying. I'm sure Matt Booty's doing what Matt Booty needs to do, but I agree with that situation with that bad apple. I do think Xbox needs to step in more. Like, I like the idea of Xbox and like Matt Booty and Phil being hands off and just being like, tell us what you want to make and we'll help you make it. So I'm not really that concerned. And I know Jez said he really isn't either, so. Dark CS, been a member for 32 months, says, hi Rand, Jez, thanks for the great show as always. Missing the weekly videos, Rand. Yeah, I know. I'm going to be getting back to the videos soon. Sabbatical's over, April's here, video time. So don't worry. The weekly videos will be, back
weekly again.
Back again. Z Black Rider says Rand and his BS numbers. What numbers? My BS numbers? Did I give BS numbers, Jez?
I don't know. I can't remember.
I'm trying to even think what numbers did I give that were BS.
I don't know.
I mean, I do see a lot of BS numbers. I do say a lot of BS stuff, so that is true. Gary says, do you think that after this Activision Blizzard acquisition is complete that Microsoft will revive Radical Entertainment? No. I don't think they'll revive any dead studios. Personally.
Nah, they'll let the past lie.
Let's see.
They'll revive some dead IP though. I can see Hexen coming back for sure. And Guitar Hero maybe. Maybe even Skylanders, man. There's so much they could do. It's just so exciting what they could do with that shit.
Marky Kelly says,
they just got to get the deal through first.
Do you think they will change the user interface at all? I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know. It seems like they've arrived at one they like because it's just kind of small iterations to it. Yeah. I don't know. Like, they went through a lot of iterations during the Xbox One era. I think there was like 3 or 4 or 5 revisions of the user interface, and it seems
there was a lot of revisions.
Yeah, I think they've basically settled on this one. Now that's not to say like they won't change it 5 years from now or something, but it definitely seems like this is the one they're gonna stick with for a bit. Beer Baron says, Jez, any word on Redfall? Is it still on track to release this year? And is gameplay revealed this summer? Have you heard anything about any of that?
I haven't heard anything myself. I'd expect that it is. I don't think it's gonna... I mean, The rumor is that it's delayed out of the summer, so it's going to come out in Q3 or Q4. But beyond that, I haven't heard anything. We'll just have to wait and see, I think.
Yeah. I think it's gonna come out in October. Vampire game releasing close to Halloween is my guess, personally.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. And I think with that, we are going to end the show. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. I'll be back with videos probably this week if there's anything super interesting to talk about. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. And